dig it. I'm sorry, I don't have anything.
You never have anything.
I never have anything. It's like, you start easy going with the like, hey, hello Cleveland, are you ready? I feel like I need, what other smarter podcasts do, John?
What's that?
They have a thing they say every podcast at the beginning.
Pretty much.
Instead of having to come up with some dumb shit every week. Like
I just always thought yours was, hello Ragers and Ragettes, how's it going? My name is Jeff, and with me today this week is so-and-so.
That's what it sounds exactly like me. Your impression of me is spot on. I figure you could just do the podcast from now on. You can record all my parts. I'll give you a script, and then you can just react to them, and then that'll be easy, right?
My name's Jeff. I'm a big moron.
Hey, my name is Jeff. Welcome to Rage Select Podcast. Here, Rage Select. I'm Jeff. I'm Jeff. And with me, as always, is John.
Not always.
Like this. Well, yes, not always. You still grasping for the hat trick, huh? I gotta
look forward to something on this site, Jeff.
I feel like one of these days I'm going to be recording the third part, and you're just going to kick in my door like the goddamn Terminator and be like, "No, it's mine. It's my turn." Oh man. Well, hey everybody, welcome. We have a real weird kind of mixed grab bag full. We're in that situation. I've seen like you and I are in this situation a lot where it's like Oculus Connect started and is going on right while we're recording this. So it's like I've got like a trickle of stories about some VR stuff to go over. But yeah, gaming news this week is weird. I guess the gaming industry is just concentrating on not putting games out on Tuesday, which is fucking honking me off.
You're really upset by that.
Dude, Tuesday's the day when games come out. Mafia 3 come out on Tuesday. Like I got a schedule to keep.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
movies come out on Tuesday, which is also why video games come out on Tuesday. I mean, they kind of just adopted that. But I always felt like movies or video games should get like their own day. So like, movies come out, DVDs come out on Tuesday.
Sure.
Theatrical movies come out on Friday.
Right.
Comic books come out on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Why can't video games come out on a Thursday?
Hey, you know what? I got absolutely
or even on a Monday.
You know what? I got no problem with that whatsoever. I got zero problem. But pick a day and stick with it. If you've been putting games out on Tuesday, I mean, I don't blame Nintendo for being a big fucking sack of stupid cats about. They always want to put their games out on Friday like a bunch of wangos. But yeah, anyway, I'm sorry. This is not interesting. I'm not going to keep bitching about this. So, John, let's talk a little bit before we get into the news about Dr. Cage, Johnny Cage. There's a new Johnny Cage show on Netflix, as I understand it, right? It's his brother. It's his cousin.
They're not related at all.
Man, wouldn't that be awesome if, like, towards the end of Luke Cage, if he's like, I need backup. I got to call my brother Johnny. He's going to come in here. And then, like, from Mortal Kombat X with Cage written across his chest or whatever. Or no, he has Johnny across his chest, right? And he's got Cage on his belt buckle.
Yeah.
Dude, Johnny Cage, Luke Cage crossover? Come on, man.
Throw Nick Cage in there and we'll...
Yeah! Dude, that would be awesome. So yeah, Luke Cage came out on Netflix.
Yes, it did.
You haven't watched all of it yet?
I am 2 episodes away from finishing it.
Do you even binge, bro? I mean,
I binge.
Yeah.
Like I binged all of Daredevil, season 1 and season 2, but Amanda tends to like to watch the first couple episodes, and then depending on what she thinks of the first 3 episodes, then tells me whether or not I'm allowed to continue binging. So I have to wait for her to be available to watch. So
I've never been so glad to be single in my entire life. I was like, my dog was having diarrhea everywhere.
Trust me, I would be done with so many shows right now.
Yeah,
I would have. Cage would be done.
Yeah,
I would be done with the Get Down.
Yep.
I would be done with I'd probably have watched all of season 1 of Supergirl.
Okay.
Not to mention so many other shows. But I can't watch some of them without her.
How do you live having all of these dangling threads when you know there's like, if I just sat down for 4 hours, I'd be done with this show. Like, it's like it's like those people that play a video game to like 80% and then they just stop playing it. I'm just like, what? You were right there. Like 2 hours. You would have been done.
Yeah, but sometimes by the time you get to that 80%, it sucks.
I mean,
the game is just fucking terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got the sickness, so I can't stop. Like, if I put 12 hours into a game and there's like 3 hours left, fuck it, I'm going to finish that game.
Also, sometimes you get to a point where you get stuck and you go, you know what? I'm gonna stop for a second. I'm going to take a step back. I'll come back to this in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And then 6 other games come out.
Yeah, see, I know, like that right there. I know better than that. I've learned that's like that shit. I don't even pretend anymore. Where I'm like, I go to the store. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get a snack. I'm gonna get a can of Pringles, and I'm like, gonna sit down on the couch. I don't sit down on the couch and open up a can of Pringles and go, you know what? I'm gonna eat like half of this can, and then I'm gonna put the rest away, and then I'm gonna go come back to them later. No. I'm gonna be like licking my finger and trying to get at the dust in the bottom of the Pringles can.
Yeah.
So.
But no, so I'm almost done with Luke Cage.
Okay. What do you think about Luke Cage?
I like it. Yeah? I like it a lot so far.
Yeah.
I got to see how they stick the landing of the whole thing. I will say, trying not, to be spoiler free or whatever.
Sure.
I do have some complaints.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think it's on par, maybe just a little bit below Jessica Jones.
Okay.
Because I love Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones is my favorite of the Marvel series.
I love here's the thing. I think if you were to rate them, what is the best series of the Netflix Marvel series? It would, as of right now, it would be Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Daredevil Season 1, Daredevil Season 2.
Okay.
Like that's the order that they go in. If you were to ask me what my favorites are, it would actually go Daredevil Season 1, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Daredevil Season 2.
I might put Daredevil Season 1 above Luke Cage. I don't know. It's because he doesn't really get a proper origin story because he already had his origin. I mean, he gets an origin story, but it's like we already really know this character. This isn't just like a side character.
Sort of. We sort of know him.
He was featured pretty heavily in Jessica Jones.
Sort of. But I mean, there was a lot of mystery there. There was a lot of stuff that wasn't explained with his character that now is getting explained in the show.
Yeah. It's funny, actually, of the problems, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about the problems that you had, but of the problems that I had with it, I felt like one of the biggest issues that I had with it was that so for those of you who don't know, Luke Cage's power set is that he's bulletproof and he's really strong, right?
Yeah. And he also has super fast healing.
Yeah, and I felt like it took them way too long for the villains to kind of wise up to that. Like the first half of the whole series, I felt like it was still, there was a lot of people like just shooting at him and shooting at him and shooting at him. And I kind of wished that somebody had been like, okay, well, we know that shooting at him doesn't work, so let's try some other stuff, like drowning or poison or gas, or I don't know, turn out the lights and then put on a bunch of night vision goggles, or use some kung fu to trip him. Like it's something that doesn't involve continuing to shoot at him with guns. Because I felt like there was. I think that maybe the issue that I had was, okay, so in Daredevil, we saw Daredevil get the shit beat out of him.
Yes.
So there was actually like a lot of, in my mind, I had a lot of like, I've really felt it when Daredevil got hurt, because it was like, well, this guy doesn't have super healing like the Avengers do. In Jessica Jones, that was much more of kind of like a psychological cat and mouse type of thing.
Her damage was psychological,
right?
Not physical.
They didn't need to do that. They didn't need to beat the shit out of Jessica Jones all the time. But I still had a lot of, because it was a very personal story, and they set that up really early on.
Oh, man, that was really good, too.
Here, I had a little bit of trouble ever feeling like Luke Cage was in trouble at any point, because him personally, at least it seems like, because he is so immune to bullets, and because this is such a gritty story that doesn't have Hulks and lasers and Chitauri and stuff like that, that it's like he wasn't in a lot of danger. And being the title character, there were people around him that were in danger, but being the title character, I guess I just didn't really have a lot of, like, I wasn't on the edge of my seat like, oh man, Luke Cage is going to get hurt. Oh no, what's going to happen here? Whereas there were in some of the other series, even in Daredevil Season 2, I felt like I was a little bit more on edge, because that Daredevil can get hurt because he's been hurt so many times before. Yeah,
but I don't need, it's okay, and here's where I disagree with you. I mean, I do get what you're saying, and I totally understand it.
Yeah.
But I don't need all of my superhero shows to have the superhero be like, oh no, how is he going to get, how's he going to get, oh God, he's hurt, how is he going to stop this guy?
Sure.
Sometimes I just want to see a good guy beat the shit out of a bad guy.
Sure.
And also, to that point, just because this one gangbanger shoots Luke Cage, and Luke Cage, nothing happens, and the rumor spread that, oh, yo, dog, this guy is fucking bulletproof.
Right.
Doesn't mean that everyone believes it, because that rumor gets blown out of proportion. Like,
sure.
Oh man, that guy's fucking bulletproof. Turned out no one actually hit him. You know, like, so them not believing him and continuing to shoot at him made sense. And there was a point in the show where quite a few of the characters were like, why are we even shooting this guy?
Right.
We know it's not going to hurt him.
Right.
No. Why are we bothering with this?
No, I get that. I guess it's just I'm not really the people continuing to shoot at him isn't really a huge problem for me. It's just like I guess that the stakes, the personal stakes to Luke Cage, because the character is very much set up, and this is just in the very first episode and even previous episodes, as like not having, he has a connection to the place where the thing takes place, but he's constantly on the edge of leaving. So it's not like he has it ties into the story, but it's not like he starts the story with a family to protect. There's a bunch of times where he's just basically getting ready to like leave. And so I guess the stakes for him, I felt like needed to be a little bit higher for me, but that's just me personally. I disagree, mainly for the fact that you bring up the point that he's like on the verge of leaving. Yeah.
Well, that's because he sees the destruction around him, and it's, if I stay here, people are going to die.
Sure.
Those are the stakes.
Sure.
That's the stakes that he's going, well, the only thing, I can't be hurt, so, me getting killed is not a possibility, so my only option is to leave, and then those people being like, the fuck are you doing leaving?
Yeah.
Like, it's, and being like, no, you're part of this community, you need to stay.
Sure.
And you need to be a fucking man and stop being a little bitch who runs away.
Yeah.
Like, those are the stakes. That's because, shit gets blowed up. People do get hurt around him. And yeah, the stakes to him directly may not be like, oh man, how, Luke Cage, he's hurt. That may not be that, but it's, how is he going to get around the fact that every time he tries to do something good, others around him get hurt?
Sure. No, I understand.
Yeah.
It comes back to, I'm not going to go into this in any kind of serious detail, but
okay.
One of the issues that I have with the Nolan Batman is kind of the same as I'm not a big fan of superheroes who want to walk away. I'm a big fan of the Spider-Man ethos of with great power comes great responsibility.
Okay. No, I get it.
I don't dig it when superheroes want to be like, oh, well, I'm super strong and bulletproof, but I'm going to leave because it's hard, because there's bad things happening. Also, I didn't feel like and this is the last.
I agree with you on that. I do prefer a hero that's like, you know what, it's hard, but I've got these powers and I'm the only one who can do something.
Right.
There is that element, and I feel like Luke.
It was also a problem where I'm like, I don't think he's actually like the possibility of him actually leaving the show was so low that it was kind of ludicrous. When you start putting stuff in a bag, right? You're like, well, you're not going to... Luke Cage is not going to walk out of Luke Cage, the Netflix series, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to go to a Bruce Banner walking down the street hitchhiking part of course, that would have been kind of cool if he travel the earth like Kane from Kung Fu. But also, I just briefly... and I definitely want to let you finish because I feel like I've interrupted you.
No. I'm interrupting you as well.
I mentioned this on the live stream. I loved the music in the series. It's got this great soundtrack. It's very diverse. I still get really irritated, and I don't know if there's any other blinding examples, but like I said on the live stream, there's that scene from the trailer where he goes into that building and he's fucking all those people up, and they use the Mystery of Chessboxin from Wu Tang Clan, and they use a censored version that's very obviously censored. Like, it's very much kind of like where they do that with the backwards, or they'll like repeat a word or put in a weird sound effect so that it doesn't sound right. It sounds like a censored version. Or maybe it's just because I'm so familiar with that song because I fucking love that album. And I'm like, if you were going to censor it, I would have rather used Shimmy Shimmy Ya by ODB from the trailer. I would have rather had you use that full track or a hip hop track that didn't feature in the chorus profanity that you were going to have to edit out because I felt like it distracted me. Like you're in the middle of this giant action scene, and Daredevil had a few of those too. The hallway scene in the season 1, and there's in season 2 where he's in the the high rise and he's kicking all those bikers. And that scene, I was really pulled out of it because this is a song that I really like and a song that I'm really familiar with, that I wish that they would have used something that they didn't have to censor because, they have all these live performances of different songs and none of them are, they pick songs that they can play. So it just really, that one detail really irritated and stuck with me because just personal.
I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't notice it.
You didn't notice it?
I didn't know.
It's entirely possible that if you're not familiar with that song that it wouldn't have been noticeable, but having been a song that I sing along with in the car,
No, I get it.
Like, it's one of those things.
Oh, no, totally. Like, I totally understand what you mean. Like, there's a band that I really like that, there's a song that I really like. It's like one of my favorite songs by this band. One of the band members, like, pissed off the rest of the band and they kicked him out, and then they released a new album with all of the songs that guy had wrote. They rewrote them to remove his contributions from the album.
Oh, goodness.
And then they only play those versions from him, and it's a much more inferior version of the song than the original one.
Yeah.
So I totally know, because I went to a concert, and I'm like, the fuck is this shit? And then a friend of mine told me what happened, and I was like, well, I like it the other way. It was better.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of thing. No, and I totally get it. Like, it's when you love a song so much and then they make a change to it, it can be jarring.
Yeah. It's a really minor thing, but it was such an incredibly put together scene that I wish that I hadn't spent the entire. It was like somebody was poking the side of my eyeball the entire time that scene was going on.
I get it. I'm just saying, like, me personally, I didn't notice it, and I do know that song, but. I'm probably not as familiar with it as you are, because I'll be honest, as much as I've heard that song many times, I could not sing along to it.
Fair enough.
If you asked me to. But I totally get what you're saying there.
And then I think the last thing that irritated me a little bit was I felt like just in general, the villains in Luke Cage I didn't think they were as good as either the Purple Man in Jessica Jones or specifically Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk in season 1 of Daredevil. I wasn't getting, and it may just be because they were kind of gangster businessman kind of archetypes, and I just wasn't getting as much character off of either one of them as I was Wilson Fisk or Purple Man. I don't know. I mean,
okay, this is going to be somewhere where because if my biggest problem with Daredevil, as a huge Daredevil fan, is Vincent D'Onofrio's portrayal of Wilson Fisk.
Okay,
I don't like his portrayal of Asperger's Wilson Fisk, who's socially awkward and everything. I can't buy someone like him becoming the kingpin of crime.
Sure.
Based off of that performance. That's always been my biggest problem with that show, despite the fact that I fucking love Daredevil.
Yeah.
I love that show and everything. His performance, I have to really suspend my disbelief for it. I love Kilgrave. I agree with you. Kilgrave's fucking amazing character as a villain.
Yeah.
I actually thought that these were some of the more well-rounded and believable villains, with the exception of one that shows up towards the end that I'm not.
Yeah, I don't.
That I'm not going to bring spoilers. Him, I felt was kind of like out of fucking nowhere, and like where it's like. Why are we dealing with this all of a sudden?
Well, okay, so yeah, let me talk about that briefly, because I felt like there is, and this, I mean, again, this is kind of a spoiler. We're not going to talk about the specifics of what it is, but like this character is talked about in like hushed tones, and then when he comes in, it's kind of underwhelming almost, and you're almost like when he finally comes into the story,
he's a fucking hokey Batman villain.
I almost had a hard time believing. I'm like, you're supposed to be like the sinister force. There's a character who early on is talked about in these hushed tones, like the fucking bogeyman, and then he comes in, and it's kind of like when the character showed up in the show, I didn't think it was that character. I thought it was somebody else.
Oh, I thought
totally
knew it was that character.
Like a bullseye, right? Like a sub character. And then he shows up, and then it turns out, oh, that is that guy. And I was just like, that guy? Okay. Well, I don't really entirely understand.
And he ends up coming off more inept than the people that he was calling inept.
Right, yeah.
I will say this.
Yeah.
Character of Shades.
Yeah.
That character in the comics, was a joke character. He was a throwaway Cyclops ripoff joke character in the comics. They turned that character into a fucking suave-ass motherfucking villain who I actually was one of my favorite characters in the show.
He was very interesting. Well, the thing is that I feel like
I felt like he was the best villain, and I use the term villain loosely here.
Right.
He was the best antagonist, I guess I should say.
Sure.
Out of any Marvel Netflix series so far. Because Kilgrave, I love him as a villain. He's great.
Yeah.
But he is very cartoony in his characterization. Like it's very comic book.
Sure.
Even though there are parts where he's totally sinister and scary and stuff like that. But at no point do you want to like Kilgrave, and you're not supposed to like Kilgrave.
Right.
Shades, I'm sitting there watching him, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I like this guy. He's fucking won me over.
Yep.
You know, this is a guy that I would end up following.
Maybe that was one of the issues that I had, at least with the early part of because I almost feel like it's like a half and half thing. Like there's kind of a weird turn where everything changes in the series. But like in the beginning, the Shades character shows up, like you're introduced to the bad guy, and the Shades character shows up, and Shades character, I'm just like, this guy should be the bad guy. Not because because he keeps telling the main bad guy how you're doing everything wrong, and I'm like, you're doing everything wrong.
That's his entire character to every other villain is, this is what you're doing wrong. Why are you doing this? He does that even to the one that we talk about that we kind of have a little bit of a problem with. He even does it to that guy too. He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Last thing I want to say before we get into the news is that there's like one point in the entire show, there's like one time where Shades gets to do things his way, and I swear to God he's deriving an almost sexual level of pleasure from finally getting to do stuff, quotey fingers, like the right way, the way that he wants to do stuff. He like turns into this weird creepy, like I feel like if the camera panned down, he's just rubbing his crotch because he finally gets to do some sinister
but it was
shit.
So good. No, but my point is, I like what I've seen so far, and they could totally fuck up the ending. I don't know. I've got 2 episodes to go.
Okay.
But everything I really like the show so far. I think it's fucking great. I think it's I can't say enough good. It has its problems.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It totally. I feel like because there is that point where things change. There's a turning point in the series.
Sure.
Where just something happens and everything changes.
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of gets a little uneven at that point.
Yeah.
Because then like new characters are introduced that are kind of show up for or not introduced, but new characters are revealed that are not as interesting as that they were alluded to earlier in the series.
Sure.
They're just it kind of.
There's also dude, I'm sorry, I forgot one more thing. Man, the cops are stupid in this show. There's some good cops, but there's some like really, and also let me ask you if you caught the same thing. So I don't know her name, but the woman who played Kiva in The Wire plays like the Misty Knight's boss.
Okay.
In the beginning.
Is this the first boss or the second boss?
The first boss. Okay. The one with the longer hair,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
Is it just me, or is her acting was shitty? Like I saw her in The Wire, and I know that I think she might have been one of those people that was brought in that was not the super professional person, but like in the beginning of that, I was watching her act, and I was just like, "Good God, woman! Like, make an effort or something." Like,
yeah.
It was unpleasant. But there's some, especially towards the end. There's some stuff where like the cops have to act in an incredibly stupid way.
Oh no, I agree. There is a point
forward.
where someone does something and just yells out, "My name's Luke Cage,"
right,
and then runs away. And then like they're like, "Well, I guess we got to arrest Luke Cage,"
right?
And it's like,
yeah.
but and even like Misty Knight's like, someone yelled out, "My name's Luke Cage" after committing a crime. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Right.
It's obviously not Luke Cage. Don't care. Got to arrest him anyway.
Right.
And it's like, what?
Yeah. Which you know, if they wanted to do a kind of like if that series wanted to focus on race relations or the difference between the cops, and it does a little bit. It
does, yeah.
But if it really wanted to hunker down on that stuff, like they could have maybe made that work in a different way.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of that, and this is something. This is not. I want to state that this is not a complaint against the show.
Sure.
Just something that I noticed that I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
Anytime you see a cop harm someone, whether it be punch someone or physically assault someone or shoot someone, they're all black.
Yeah.
None of the white cops in the show actually attack anyone. I just thought that, like, there are white cops that are there. I think that was a conscious effort. I think they did that consciously.
I mean, here's another thing is that,
but I just thought it was very interesting because I was halfway expecting them to be like, oh, well, they're going to have the racist cop somewhere. Like, somewhere the racist cop is going to show up and be the bad guy, kind of, in a smaller kind of just, we need to get through this episode.
Sure.
This guy is going to be the focal point of the bad guy in the episode. And there was never a racist cop.
Yeah.
Like, all the cops...
in some ways, though, if they had a racist cop, it might have explained some of the stupid police stuff better.
Yeah.
If you had somebody who was like... if you had one of those stereotypical characters who was like, well, who believes that Luke Cage is essentially the cop equivalent of a J. Jonah Jameson, who's also got some racism peppered in there as well to explain why they act so stupid and so.
And there's even a point where they even like started to introduce a cop character who's like, no, I'm going to go put an end to this, blah blah blah. Kind of like he's going to go off the handle, and he's a white guy, and he's like, no, we gotta, and then they start like accosting like. Kids in the street trying to find Luke Cage and trying to do everything they can, but if you notice, it's only the black cops or the Hispanic cops that are actually assaulting anyone. All the white cops are seen just kind of standing around or just looking angry off in the distance, and then like this guy shows up, and then the one time I'm like, oh shit, something's gonna happen, and he has the ability to take action. And he totally could, and I'm like, okay, he's totally going to do the wrong thing, and then this, for at least an episode, this guy is going to be like in the wrong or something like that. And no, he totally does the right thing, like in the scene. And it was just like, again, I understand why they did that, because they didn't want to send the wrong message. They just want to say that sometimes cops go too far, kind of thing, and they didn't want to be like, oh no, it's only the white cops or anything like that. And it was just when it was pointed out to me, I was like, huh. I just thought it was really interesting.
You don't notice, and then you suddenly start noticing.
Yeah, once it's pointed out, I can't unsee it.
Right.
And it's not a negative against the show, and it's not a positive against the show. It's just something that I think that they very consciously did.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want the wrong discussion about it being had.
Sure.
And I just thought it was very interesting. I will say there's one last thing I do want to say about Luke Cage.
Okay, wrap it up, because we got to get over to the news. We're almost at 30 minutes. But
there's one last little thing. I actually felt like this was the most superhero show of the 3 Netflix shows so far.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at Daredevil, yes, he gets in a costume and fights crime, but the show is not about that. The show is about the ramifications of him doing that.
Sure.
It's never about him going to fight crime until about season 2, but it's all about what is happening to everyone around him while he's doing this.
Right.
How him doing this is affecting everyone else, and him trying to still have a normal life.
Sure.
And how it's him doing that is destroying fucking everything.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones is not a superhero. It's something else. This is a guy who is actually going around trying to, even when he doesn't want to, is going around being a vigilante.
Yeah.
And it was even pointed out to me that you could actually take away the superpowers element of the story. Mm-hmm. And it's no different than a movie like Death Wish, or something where you have a cop or somebody who's been pushed over the edge and is going to go on a killing spree of the mob,
right.
or a vigilante spree, and just no one can. He's unstoppable. He's an unstoppable killing machine, or he's an unstoppable, force to be reckoned with to bring justice to the streets.
Yeah,
it's no different than those. Mm-hmm. But this was and I think part of the reason why I like it as much as I do is that despite the fact that there's no there's no stakes for Luke Cage specifically as far as like his health and him being, and he's going to get out of every fight and every situation. Right. I feel like it's the most superhero of those shows, and I really like it because of that.
Okay. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen at home. I really like it too. I mean, I had a great time watching it. There were just a few points. It's like when I thought about it, there were a couple things that like.
No! It does have some problems.
It's got a few issues.
I think even Jessica Jones, to a degree, has a few problems.
Jessica Jones could probably be about 3 episodes shorter than it is. It drags
in a few places, but I thought it was okay. I didn't actually have a problem with it as much as everyone else did. But no, I think every show has their own little ticks that are not good or that are not as good as the rest.
Sure.
But I think they've all been really good.
It's also entirely possible at this point that that if Luke Cage had been the first show to come out, that I might have liked it better, and it's just because I've already seen 3 other seasons of Netflix Marvel shows that I'm like.
Yeah. All I know is I'm really excited for Iron Fist, which comes out in was it February or January or something?
Something like that.
Something like that. Next year they just put out, or no, maybe March. It's one of those. It's the first 3 months of the next year. It's one of those months. I'm really excited to kind of see Iron Fist, and then I really want Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Misty Knight to interact with each other, and Misty Knight and Iron Fist need to go on a date.
Okay. I feel like you're talking about something that I don't know what it is in the comics.
Misty Knight and Iron Fist are a couple in the comics.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, hey, you know what? Enough about these funny papers. Let's get into some video game news.
Oh, shit!
I feel like a lot of the video game news this week is just reactions to other things that have happened in, like, this follow-up stories.
Yeah,
like,
follow-up.
The biggest
in other
this
news
week are follow-up stories. The first follow-up story is that apparently Fallout 4 and Skyrim mods are coming back to the PlayStation 4. But asterisk, and then when you go down to the bottom to read it, apparently
it's a big asterisk.
It's a giant asterisk. Apparently, they are going to be coming. The thing is that this is from a story on Game Informer. And I'm just going to quote this directly. User mods featured in the PS4 version of Fallout 4 and Skyrim will not be allowed to contain any external assets, and instead must rely on assets contained in the original game.
So in other words, no Macho Man death claws.
No lightsabers, no stormtroopers, no, stuff that isn't Star Wars. I mean, just none of the other
Macho
stuff.
Man.
Or Macho Man Randy Savage or any other Razzler out there. Yeah, it's so weird that that's the solution that they came up with, because when I've read this, John, I just want to throw my hands and go, well, what's the fucking point?
No, I agree.
Even the remixed, there's been a bunch of, I've been watching this Fallout 4 mods YouTube channel of just a guy who looks at mods, right? And he's featured a bunch of mods that just add a bunch more quests and storylines and stuff into the game, but they all have original dialogue in them, and it's like, well, yeah. So basically, it's just all you can do is take the existing assets of Fallout and build a small mission that uses all the same vocal samples and a text pad that tells you what it so hamstrings the entire effort that, to me, I'm almost like, why even bother? There's you're not going to be able to add in anything different. You're not going to be able to add in anything new. You're just going to be able to remix what's there. And there's plenty of Fallout 4 and Skyrim there to deal with without mod support. That I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know.
You don't care about mods, do you?
I don't use mods. I own an Xbox One and I own Fallout 4 for the Xbox One. I haven't touched the mods. I haven't touched Fallout 4 in forever.
Yeah.
Though I keep thinking I'm going to go back to it at some point. But
it's that you're only going to eat half a can of Pringles thing going on all over again. You're just fooling yourself, John.
Yeah, pretty much. But I do kind of agree with you. My thing is so what if they're only allowed to use the assets that are in the game? What exactly are they modding?
Yeah,
what is being modded? What is the thing that
I'm sure there's some examples of. I know that there are plenty. There are mods out there where basically people have streamlined certain parts of the game, or just to make the game better using the existing assets that are there. But I wonder if this extends to vocals as well, because without I mean, you could build yourself an area and build yourself a quest line, build yourself some new NPCs, right? That are just because, I mean, you can take the existing NPCs. I mean, I would assume that because the game has a character creation engine in it, that you can create whatever NPC you want, put whatever gear you want on them, but it's not like you can make new stuff, which I feel like is one of the big things.
Yeah.
That everybody
wants. I just want my what's the dude that's the Minutemen, the head of the Minutemen, or whatever the fuck his name is. Oh, that's always telling you to go do quests to help
for
other
settlements. Yeah.
What's that dude's name? Do you remember?
Garvey? No, Marcus.
I don't remember. But someone made a mod where he's basically dressed like Woody from Toy Story. Like they didn't change him. They just changed the skin, and it's just his clothes are basically Woody's clothes from Toy Story, and I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, having watched this YouTube channel, it's like some of the things that people made for Fallout 4 are amazing. Like one guy was a giant facility that you can build and power that you can then make this gun that you can scan any character in the world of Fallout, and then you can basically make synths of them. You can make copies of them in this giant, and you can actually just set it to keep going, so it could just like mass produce the same person over and over and over again. Preston Garvey. Preston Garvey. There he is. So yeah, I don't know. What the fuck is even the point, Sony? Like, come on, bro. The only thing that this gives me hope for is that if it starts here, that they might eventually come to some sort of understanding to open it up. Like, if they say, look, the PC version and the Xbox One version are fine. I don't even know if Sony is just afraid of having any kind of unlicensed code running on their console.
I think that's what it is.
Or what exactly the whole point of that is, but... next up, hey, so let's talk about Digital Homicide.
Hey, wouldn't be a week of a podcast without some talk about Digital Homicide.
Boy, these guys have fucked themselves so hard. They fucked themselves left, right, and center. They have literally fucked themselves into the ground. So for those of you who have been following the story, Digital Homicide is a crappy developer on Steam that just floods Steam with a bunch of garbage-ass games. They give away games and stuff on their greenlight page in order to get stuff greenlit, apparently, from what I've read. They recently, 2-3 weeks ago, came out with a thing where they were suing a bunch of Steam members who were being mean to them for $18 million.
And they had also, what's the word I'm looking for? They had basically got the courts to request that Steam give them the user data.
Yeah, they requested.
Subpoena.
Yeah, they subpoenaed Valve to give them the individual real-world user information for the people that they were suing. Valve declined and also delisted all their games from Steam because they were like, you're abusing the Steam membership.
Yeah, you're harassing Steam users, so no, we're no longer going to do business with you. You have broken our contract.
Which, unfortunately, apparently was, where are you going to sell shitty-ass garbage games if you're been banned from Steam?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to go to your webpage, Digital Homicide. Nobody's going to make an effort to go type in digitalhomicide.com and then go through a shady PayPal account to give you $2 for whatever shit-ass game you made. So they dropped their lawsuit and also stated their business has pretty much been destroyed because they don't have a way to distribute their dumb games anymore.
And they can't afford to file lawsuits either.
Yep. So... good. Sorry for your loss, bro, but it's one of those things where
there were ways you could have gone about this that were not as asshole-ish.
It just when we originally talked about this story, I just kept coming back to this idea of what did you think was going to happen? Did you think that Valve was just going to let you litigate against their service and users and then just continue to let you abuse their system? They had to know that you were doing it, but you were within it's one of those people who does some shady shit, but technically they haven't broken any rules.
Yeah.
They've broken the spirit of the thing, but they haven't technically broken any rules. But as soon as you break a rule, you got to know that organization is just waiting. They're just waiting for you to slip up to be like, get the fuck out of here. And they did. And they're gone. And I don't know, maybe they have a history of coming up with other fake company names and then sneaking back onto Steam and publishing stuff under different company names. So I assume that's probably going to happen, but the problem is that they've now made such a pest out of themselves that people are more than willing to try to track down shady-looking companies and see if they're a subsidiary of Digital Homicide. So, but yeah, just for the for future reference, all of you budding game developers out there, probably not a good idea to fuck with Steam.
Also, don't be a dick. I've heard that the guy who was like the one Romaine brother who was like the guy who talked to everybody.
Yeah,
I heard he was a real fucking asshole.
I think it was James. Might have been James Romaine. Yeah, I've heard him talk. He is a tool of the highest caliber. So yeah. Speaking of Valve and speaking of lawsuits, there was a class action lawsuit that was being brought against Valve for the whole CS:GO gambling thing. That lawsuit has been dismissed.
Oh, okay.
Now, apparently, this isn't exactly it seems like a nice, bright story, or depending on where you fall on that, maybe a huge travesty. But apparently, it wasn't just Valve. Valve was listed in that suit along with what is the name? Trevor T. Martin, who was one of the people that was running one of those gambling websites that had a YouTube channel that was like, oh, man, I just found this website. You should totally go to it and blah, 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 was also listed in there. He filed to get the entire case dismissed. A judge looked at it and decided, because whoever had filed this class action lawsuit was trying to bring him up on RICO charges. And basically, the judge was like, "This doesn't qualify as a RICO case because RICO is RICO is still one of those things that I feel like doesn't get used. The courts don't like to use it. I feel like in a real heavy-handed way. So this actually didn't stem from Valve or from the court proceedings. It was actually one of the defendants in the case who petitioned the court to basically get the case thrown out, and they did. And so it's dismissed, at least for now. I think there might still be some investigation stuff going on. I think this was a separate class action lawsuit. So, but that's happened. So there's that. And that's all the legal news we have today. We're gonna have a new legal segment where we're just like, let's talk about all the court cases. So I think that, what was it, last week?
Before I know what we're going to be talking about here.
Sure.
I just want to say, I remember me and you on a podcast talking about this, about what's going to happen here.
You're taking the words right out of my mouth.
I called it.
Yeah, you did. You did. All right, folks. So we all know that Infinite Warfare, they're having this whole dumb, you got to buy the collector's edition of Infinite Warfare to get the Call of Duty remastered.
Yeah.
And yes, we were on a podcast where there was speculation that you would have to have, if you had the disc version of Infinite Warfare, you'd have to have the disc in your console in order to play the remastered version of Call of Duty.
Or at the very least, a digital copy of Infinite Warfare installed.
I think that, we'll get into the specifics of that, but it's actually not, you can download them separately.
Oh, okay.
I believe, currently I have Call of Duty Remastered installed, and I don't have Infinite Warfare downloaded.
Okay.
So, and they said the same is going to be true on Steam. But if you have the disc version on your console, you're going to have the Infinite Warfare disc in your console if you want to be playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. And I just can't help but sigh, slap my forehead, and go, "What are you doing, Activision?" Like, I understand that you don't want. I mean, maybe they're looking for proof that you bought it, and since you don't always have to be online, right? If you're using if you're playing a digital version, then they know that you bought it because you checked out with the digital version. But like, if you give your Infinite Warfare disc to a friend, and then they have, I don't even know what the thinking is. All I know is that, like, you could have this Modern Warfare Remastered could have garnered a huge amount of goodwill to both Activision, to the Call of Duty franchise, to fans and gamers everywhere. It probably could have made up for a lot of the butthurt over Infinite Warfare. Probably could have done a lot of stuff. If Activision would just quit acting like a dick for 12 seconds. Just sell it for $20 on the PlayStation Store.
Bobby Kotick's don't play that, man.
Oh, man. Dude, I would be willing for them to come out and say that, like, hey, the only way that you can play this day one is to buy Infinite Warfare, the $80 edition or higher, but January 1st, anybody can buy it. We're going to put it out for $25 on the PlayStation Store. You're going to have 90 days of free access, of exclusive access if you buy Infinite Warfare and you want to play it right now. Get those people who can't wait. Get those people. And then just be upfront with consumers and be like, after X amount of time has gone by, you're going to be able to buy it. Because guess what? You're going to be able to buy it eventually. In February of next year, you and I are going to be sitting in this room on this couch, and I'm going to be saying to you, oh, look, Activision finally said that they're putting out Call of Duty Remastered for $30 on the PlayStation and Xbox store and on Steam. Because they'll do it eventually. They can't not do it. They can't expect people to pay $80 for that game forever.
Oh, you don't know.
Maybe I don't. I would expect them to have the fucking physical disc in to play a download game. It's like a 60-gig download game. It took me 8 hours
Yeah, apparently,
to download it.
If I remember correctly, if you want... Well, because everything I read said that you did have to have, like, I guess I'm wrong, but everything I had read said that you did have to have the digital version of Infinite Warfare installed to play it. Now, I had assumed that because you're getting it as part of the digital purchase, it's allowing you to play it with it, like it actually like partially installed some of the data for Infinite Warfare. That's what I assumed, but I don't know. I was under the impression
according to this actual thing, it says that if you buy them digitally, you don't have to have them both installed.
Okay, because I was always under the impression that you had to have both installed, which apparently to install both of them, it's over 130 gigs.
Yeah,
which everyone's like, what the fuck?
I think that it's just for the digital. I think it's just for the disc copy. Like if you have a physical disc, and I think it's because they can guarantee. I think the disc thing is so that because let's see if I had the disc, unless the disc. You don't think that if I bought Infinite Warfare, the collector's edition, and it had access to this, and then I loaned you the disc, once you activated Call of Duty Remastered, it would be linked to whatever account you were using, right? So it's not like I could give you the Infinite Warfare disc and then you could go download it too.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't understand. I'm trying to come up with some kind of rational reason outside of just straight up being a tool to do this. That's the only thing I can think of. Because, Steam, it's going to be fine. I bought the digital copy. I don't have to have them both installed. It's just if you buy... The only thing I can think of is that they're actually just like, well, we don't want people to buy the disc. We want people to buy it digitally so that we can control its whatever. That's the only thing I can think of, but
I don't know.
I don't know. What a shit show. Speaking of shit shows, apparently everybody on the PC is upset with Mafia 3 because clutch at your pearls, John. It's going to have the frame rate locked at 30 frames per second.
I don't like that you're calling me out the fact that I'm wearing pearls.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows. I tweet about your pearls, John's Pearls, at John's Pearls.
Why are you talking about my pearls, Jeff?
That's just, it's a very popular Twitter account. I just do a lot of pearl-based jokes there,
So you're making jokes about me now?
I am.
Anyways.
So, yeah, apparently, and I really do want to preface this by saying that, PC users, oh my God, sometimes you just need to fucking shut up, all right? I've got a PC myself. I swear to God, there are some, and it's not just Mafia 3, there are some Steam pages where when you go down to the Steam reviews, I swear to God, it's like, did you curate the whiniest fucking reviews of all time? Oh, do I have this sorted by the first 40 reviews? Have to be nitpick. I can't adjust the FOV, and it's locked at 30 frames per second. Thumbs down, shit game, never buy, fuck off. What the fuck is your problem? Anyway, let's go back to this. So right now on the PC, Mafia 3 is locked at 30 frames per second.
Yes.
Who is this? 2K?
Yeah, 2K.
2K said that basically we're going to patch to unlock that, which is nice because a lot of times people don't even do that.
They stated that they've heard the complaints of the PC master race people and being upset that they can't get more than 30 frames per second, and they came out and said, yeah, well, the game was designed to run at a constant 30 frames per second, and as long as your system meets the minimum system requirements, it will hit that. It will never dip below 30 frames per second.
Sure. And
we had to lock it to ensure that.
Yeah.
They're like, but We're going to work on a patch to fix that so that eventually you can run it at a higher frame rate if you want, because we hear you, we know you're complaining about it, and we're going to give it to you at some point. We'll let you know when we have more information.
I guess it comes down to, for me, is that like there seems to be this obligation by PC users that everything should be optimized to run basically the best way possible. That every developer should spend as much time as humanly possible. When I look at this is some real talk time. I've looked before at like the breakdown of sales figures between consoles and PC versions of games, and while Steam is still, it's hard to get sales figures for anything. Most of the time, the PC version represents a smaller chunk than the console version, right?
Yeah.
But god damn, do PC users complain bitterly if there's anything even remotely not up to the way that they want things, to the point where if I was a developer, I'd just be like, I put out the version for the PC and they're like, where's the update to give me an option to change my FOV? And I would just reply to that email with just a middle finger, like, just eat dick. You account for 20% of our business, and yet you're just fucking just loud, whiny little bitches about every little thing.
Yeah, it's and again, I didn't even. The game's not even out yet as of recording this.
There's a bunch of like pre-release. I don't know if people got review copies or codes or something.
But yeah, the reviews on Steam went from like mostly positive to mixed.
Yeah, I think it's
within the span of a day.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the people are like, frame rate's locked at 30 frames. Thumbs down. This game sucks.
Yeah,
like no one's actually talking about if the game is good or not. They're just saying frame rate's capped. I refuse.
Here's what. This is the entire review. 30 FPS, no full screen borderless, thumbs down. Like, which, unfortunately, because Steam only works on a thumbs up, thumbs down system, that I'm like, I wish that I could filter. They put in this whole new bar on the Steam reviews where you can do like Steam purchases versus key activations. You can sort by a few things. And it's like, I just don't know. I look at all of these reviews that are just, they could have given the PC version some more love. Odd setting options, stuttering, 30 FPS cap, bad controls. Thumbs down. I mean, come on, 30 FPS, thumbs down. There's like, 30 FPS is unacceptable, thumbs down. Got to give this a negative review until they remove the 30 FPS lock. Thumbs down. A good game, but currently bogged down by a frame rate limit with graphical issues. Thumbs down. I'm just reading these off the front page of the reviews, and it's just like, dude, come on. Like, it really upsets me. People get upset when, like, what Marvel Heroes re-released as Marvel Heroes 2016.
Yeah.
You basically got a brand new set of Steam scores out of that raised the score because when it launched, it had problems. And the day that it launched, everybody was just thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down. And so it would get, like, a mostly negative, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, and then within 2 or 3 months, the problems are fixed. That's the issue that I have with these Steam reviews. And I'm sorry, PC people, I'm not meaning to just, like, jump all down your shit, but nobody ever is required to go back. If these people give this a thumbs down and their major complaint is 30 FPS, if the developer puts out a patch in 2 months that basically unlocks the frames per second on the PC version, Steam doesn't curate, and these people are not required to go back and then remove that thumbs down. That's the initial day one, I'm angry that this isn't doing anything, and then that tarnishes the reputation of this particular game on Steam, whether the developer fixes it or not, whether they actually go in and fix the issue that happened or not. So,
and I think it's also, again, to say, the game's not even fucking out yet.
Yeah, I don't even know how these people have access to this, because you can sort, and there are 557 Steam purchase ones, and then the key activation ones are 86. So I'm like, how the fuck did they even buy it before it was out? Because it's still...
I mean, do they just pre-order it and then leave a review?
I don't know.
Does it allow you to leave a review if you pre-order it?
See, this says 0.8 hours on record, 0.03 hours on record, 1 hour on record, 0.3 hours. That's another thing. 0.3 hours on record, thumbs down, are you kidding me, 30 FPS, WTK, question mark. 0.3 hours. You didn't even spend a single hour. You couldn't even be evaluating the controls, the acting, the music, the environments, the things that make a video game a video game. You're just giving it a straight up thumbs down because it doesn't have one feature that you wanted. It would be like, I don't know. It'd be like me giving a game a 0 score because it doesn't have a colorblind option, right?
It's Jeff giving a game a 0 score because it's not Dark Souls.
Right. Not Dark Souls. 0 out of 5. It really irritates me, and I really wish that. I mean, I know that at no point in the future is our gamers going to become reasonable people who think before they hit the thumbs down version on Steam, but it's just really irritating.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, we're gonna have to start zipping along because we got a lot of stuff and not much time to do it in.
All right,
there's gonna be a Power Rangers game.
Hey,
January 2017, Power Rangers Mega Battle is gonna come out, which is gonna be some kind of brawling beat 'em up game with local co-op. And John was excited, and then John pulled up a trailer, and then John stopped being excited.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I don't know what I expected.
The heads are too big. It's
very cartoony. Very.
Characters are very small on the screen.
Yeah,
it's even smaller than like the Scott.
It's
Pilgrim
like a side-scrolling beat 'em up brawler type game, and I don't know. Like I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know what I was expecting.
Have there been any good Power Rangers games?
Power Rangers the movie for the SNES was pretty good.
Okay. I don't know. I have no stake in the Power Rangers fight, but is this going to be like in conjunction with the movie, or is this just like?
No, I think it's just a game.
Okay, because it's Bandai Namco, which I mean, it's not just
because they're not using the movie costumes; they're using the actual original Mighty Morphin Power Ranger.
Well, you
costumes.
even said it sounded like they were using vocal samples like from the TV show instead of original dialogue of any kind. The animation style for it too just looked real cheap.
Yeah,
like, real kind of.
Yeah, that's why I was a little disappointed. I was expecting like I don't know what I was expecting.
Fair enough. All right, let's talk about VR a little bit. I don't have all the stories from the Oculus, whatever it is, Connect that's going on right now, but there are a couple stories.
Okay.
Let's see. First off, apparently they've got some new software that they're updating the existing Oculus with.
Okay.
That's going to lower the system specs for.
Oh, nice.
So the new system specs are NVIDIA 960 or greater.
Does that help you at all?
I've got a 670, so I need a new video card. I'm in all the rest of this stuff, though.
Okay.
Intel i3-6100, 8 gigabytes of RAM, compatible HDMI 1.3, 1x USB 3.0, 2x USB 2.0, which is a change from having to have two USB 3.0 ports. The only thing that's irritating about this new spec is it's Windows 8 or newer. So apparently Windows 7 is now persona non grata for Oculus. It used to be Windows 7's Service Pack 1 or greater. The headset itself is still being sold at $600.
Yeah. Didn't they release a revision version of that, or announce a revised version of the headset, which we'll probably get to?
We'll come to that in just a minute.
Jumping ahead.
They also announced a $500 Oculus-ready AMD PC built by CyberPower.
Oh, okay.
So
you know what? I've got a CyberPower PC at home. They're actually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, is that what I have too?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't remember.
But I bought mine digitally from them, so they're pretty good.
Yeah. So, and I think the biggest thing is that they went from an i5 down to an i3, so you can do it with an i3 processor. So that's nice. I wonder. I'm curious to know if and then the tech they've got is this thing called asynchronous space warp, or ASW, that's supposed to basically let them have a better frame rate with lower system requirements.
Oh, okay.
Now I haven't looked into it in a while, but the problem that I had last time I went to the Oculus store front was that there wasn't really a lot there. The stuff that was there was kind of the poorly reviewed stuff that I'd seen for a while. I haven't looked at it in a while, but that's nice. It's still $600 for a Rift. I think that it's actually smart of them to do this because once the PS4 VR, I don't know if that's even going to do a thing or not. I don't know if the PSVR is going to end up dying off quickly or if it's going to end up hanging on. I know that a lot of people have review copies of them right now. I need to find somebody with a review copy or something. I need to get
or just go buy a copy on the 13th.
Well, first of all, they're sold out pretty much entirely, and second, if I had any money, John, I would pay my taxes with it, not buy VR headsets.
All right, touche.
So yeah, still $600 for the Rift, but this is pretty decent. They also announced that they finally put the pricing out for the controller for the Oculus Touch, release date and pricing. It's going to be December 6th. It's going to be $199 for the two controls, and it's going to have 2 games, VR Sports Challenge and The Unspoken. I don't know what that is. That's the Insomniac Wizard Battle game.
Yeah.
$200 in addition to $600 for the thing. I mean, that basically puts the Oculus at the same price as the Vive, right? Because the Vive comes with the 2 wands. This is going to be the 2 wands that you need to basically do the same thing. It's a little irritating. I mean, it's I don't know. I have to wonder if Oculus is trying to get into the room space game, because I also saw another article talking about a lot of new Oculus games that were meant to be played standing up, essentially. I really, really, really wish that they would focus more on getting some games and letting the rest of this shit go. Like, even on Steam, there's been a shitload of Vive games, but a lot of them seem to just be variants of, here's an Unreal 4 room that you can walk around and do stuff in. I really, really cannot stress enough that I feel like they need full 8 to 12 hour games, not just 20-minute experiences, but a reason for you to sit down and play a game entirely with your Rift. I mean, fuck, dude, the motion controls for the Wii U and stuff like that, you know, Skyward Sword and like, you know, there are games out there. You play an entire 8 to 12 hour game waggling your hands around and using the controls. I think it'd be really nice to have at least a couple of games where you could play the game using the VR headset instead of just having a dumb experience. So,
well, that's where I'm hoping, you know, PlayStation VR will actually become a thing.
Yeah. Apparently, Oculus is also working on a new affordable headset, a lower-priced headset. Zuckerberg talked about this, apparently, that this is supposed to be an option between the Gear VR and Oculus. So it's like a mid-tier, more affordable option for VR.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping... You know, I really just, again, I know that people get tired of me talking about VR the same way every time, but like, I feel like there needs to be a cheaper option for people to try it out before springing, you know, for $1,000 worth of VR tech. And then finally, in the VR news, Google has put out or is releasing a thing called Google Daydream, or
Daydream
View, which is basically a Gear VR for their phones, kind of a beefed up version of Google Cardboard almost, which is going to be able to work with their new phone and then anything that has compatibility for it. I was excited at first because I thought that this might be like essentially an upscale version of Google Cardboard that can work with any phone.
Yeah.
But
and then you found out no.
So, oh well. All right, so let's zip through a bunch of these. We've got some release date, some updates, some new releases, changes. Paladins is heading for consoles that you guys watched us play last week on Super Awesome Video Game Show and Sunday Streaming. So they have some signups right now for, I believe, beta version on the PS4 and the Xbox One. I think Paladins might end up doing very, very well for Hi-Res Studios.
It might. Yeah.
As a free-to-play thing that people can just jump into. I think it's fun enough, and I really enjoy it. So, Recore has been updated to basically have a 30-minute trial version on the Xbox One and the PC, and also has an update that's supposed to help with the loading times and a few other minor
various bug
fixes
that cause you to fall through the world. They
didn't specifically note... This fixes the world famous Jeff from Rage Select bug that makes you fall through the world. It does, though, make me interested in kind of hooking my Xbox One back up and trying out Recore. I mean, I was always interested in it. It just, you know, those load times are kind of a pain in the ass. You know, Bloodborne had problems with load times when it first came out. They were a pain in the ass. So Bloodstained, Igarashi has partnered up with 505 to distribute Bloodstained,
nice.
Something of the Night, whatever it's called. 505 has been a fairly. They seem like they've been a fairly. They kind of remind me of like a real white collar version of Devolver Digital.
Yeah.
They just keep putting out games that are real fun. Like whenever I see their logo come up, I'm just like,
weren't they the guys who did Virginia?
Yeah, I believe they did put out Virginia.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find out, get a list of the stuff because they're a publisher, right? They're not a developer.
Yeah.
Let's see, list of 505 games. Ooh, there's a lot of them. Ooh, boy. Oh man, they've been doing this for a long time. Shit, I need to go get a job over at 505 Games. Wait, this is. Oh, these are developed titles. Is there a second one of these? Anyway, I don't seem to be able to find what I'm looking for. Wait, hold on. Is this published as 505 Games? Release year. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if they did. I don't know if they did Virginia. Oh no, there's Virginia. Abzu, Hawken on the PS4 and the Xbox One. Rocket League, Adrift, Sniper Elite 3, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. So they're all over it. 505, good stuff. So I'm glad that Bloodstained is getting a good push. Speaking of getting pushed, Gravity Rush 2 is not coming out until next year. Boo.
Boo.
Boo. Not that it was, the thing on the front of my list, but hey. Also, Styx, Shards of Darkness, has been delayed into 2017, which I will also say boo because I actually enjoyed the last Styx game. So I was looking forward to it. For Honor was going to have split-screen multiplayer.
Yeah.
And it's now not going to have split-screen multiplayer anymore. It's getting chopped out. Stefan Carden said, it was a feature that we loved, but when we looked at what needs to be done to support online co-op, for us it was critical to make a decision now so we can polish all the features at the AAA level and make sure that we have the most amazing experience. So it almost sounds like they needed more time to work on the online multiplayer, and trying to polish a split-screen multiplayer would have cut into that time.
Well,
All right, we got two more, and then we're going to take a break. First up, there is officially, apparently, a Gears of War movie happening.
Yes, it is.
Okay, you know what? I got to say, I'm really excited because Gears of War is the perfect game to make it to a movie.
Yeah.
There's plenty of drama, and there's
action.
Dom's crying about his wife. There's chainsaws on guns. There's big people in rubber suits. What do you think? Do you think there's any way that they could make the Locust with practical effects? There's no way. They got to make them all CGI, don't they? Just if you're sawing into them.
You could make them with practical effects.
It seems like the perfect franchise to make a movie out of, but so did Uncharted and Halo and a few other things. So,
well, Uncharted never happened, and Halo, I've liked the stuff that they've done, but they haven't actually done like an actual full feature-length movie. So
I've really who was the guy that did District 9 and Chappie or whatever?
He never got to make his thing. So
well, he was supposed to direct the Halo movie, and that was where District.
But then
9.
They lost their the studio pulled out.
Yeah. So this is what Universal, I guess, is teaming up with Microsoft.
Sure.
To make this great. Please don't fuck it up. It should be so easy. It should be the easiest thing. You could call...
First trailer comes out. In the future, we changed the name of Earth to such and such.
No. And
then aliens came down that we call the Locusts.
No, come on, man. Come on. That's all. My worst fears are coming true right now. Is that they're in a studio meeting and there's a bunch of studio executives and they're like, wait a minute, the monsters, they came up from underground? No. Pacific Rim already did that.
My name is Marcus Phoenix.
Yeah.
I was a 26-year-old gamer, and when the Locust came, everything changed.
I'm the last man alive in this desert wasteland. I can't, yeah.
Me and my dog, Dom.
Oh, no!
We solve mysteries.
No!
On the weekends.
No! Oh, no! Oh, never mind. My hopes have been dashed. I have no more hope left in the world.
But the only thing that doesn't get changed is Coltrane. Coltrane is the same no matter what. Same actor, same everything.
Yep.
Coltrane, baby.
Man, I feel like they're close. I feel like they're really close to getting a good one out there. Let it be Gears. And last but not least, I'm going to need to get myself a VR headset because apparently the only way that you can actually play a fucking John Wick video game is going to be with a headset.
That's not Payday?
Yes. Dude, how has there never been a John Wick game? It would be perfect. It would be perfect. Anyway, I think we talked about this being developed, but it looks like in February they're going to be putting out some kind of little John Wick experience thing.
Was there what looked like a slideshow with the title of the next movie?
Oh,
John Wick Chapter 2.
I don't know if that's maybe like this is your hub area where you go to get started before you go into the mission. There's some screenshots of this on Steam. I think it looks okay. It does kind of look like one of those, you just pew 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 space pirate trainer, but with machine guns and John Wicks. Just I'll be willing to give this game a lot of leeway if the very first thing you have to do in the game is use room scale on those motion controllers to dig a hole for your dead dog and pick up your virtual dead dog and put your virtual dead
terrible
dog in a hole. It would piss you off, though, right?
I don't know if I could play that.
Theon Greyjoy killed my dog. I'm going to go on a killing spree.
I don't know. I couldn't do that.
No, you don't think
so?
No,
I could not do that. I mean, no.
You guys heard it here first. John's not into dog burying.
I'm not into dogs getting killed.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to answer your questions. mail@ragesite.com is the email address, and we'll be back in a moment. And we're back. See, I got that one. It's every week I could say, and we're back. So I just need something for the beginning of the podcast.
I think you worry too much about the beginning. Just go with your regular stuff.
Okay.
The welcome everybody.
I feel like people expect me to do something different, but nobody's ever said as much. So maybe I'm worrying for nothing.
Yeah.
But we're back, and it's time for the questions. We're a little light on questions this week, but mail@rageselect.com is email address. If we don't get your question, send it again because we can always use more questions.
See, they probably weren't expecting me to be on because I wasn't on last week.
Yeah.
So they weren't sending emails.
Sure.
Because if they had known, they would have sent all tons of emails.
Okay.
Just flooded.
Yeah. Nothing but John emails.
Not just John emails, but just flooded emails.
Top to bottom.
Totally.
Yeah. My email, the server went down. It was a DDoS attack of just all the questions that were being asked. So our first question this week comes from Brandon, who says, hello, Emperor Jeff, and I'll give a guess on who is the guest this week. Kick-Ass John? It is Kick-Ass John. I have a question. I'm not 100% sure if you've answered this.
He knew.
He did.
He knew I was going to be on.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know what? I bet you anything. Because Jeff usually skips the third week and then brings John back to rub it in his face.
Yeah, exactly.
So John's probably there.
I have a question I'm not 100% sure if you've answered in the past. What series would you like to see continue just without the same protagonist? A great example I am happy for is Mass Effect Andromeda with us no longer having Shepard. Thanks for all the hard work, and damn, Jeff had to sacrifice a goat for another shirt to come out. Loyal patron Brandon. Oh, merch. We had actually somebody who just emailed. There was like, do you guys have any merch? Can I buy any merch? And it's just like, I really need to figure that out. I really need to find out a better way. I just need to start making dumb shirts with things written on them.
Yeah, no, I've told you. You should make. There's totally a ton of stuff that's Rage Select specific that you could be making merch out of.
I need a merch master. That's what I need. That's what I've been wanting for years now. Is somebody else to do all the work.
That's the problem. You just want somebody else to do it.
True. It's true. I do a lot. I don't need one more thing to do. Anyway, all right. So, video game franchises that you'd like to see continue with a different protagonist than the protagonist that is in said franchise.
You
know what? I actually think that
Max Payne.
Damn, fuck you, motherfucker!
Was that your answer?
Yes, you son of a bitch!
Oh, I was being joking because it's a character named Max Payne. Ratchet and Clank just get completely different characters. Maybe like instead of Toe Jam and Earl, it can be like
Mojam,
Finger Space and
Snurl.
Steve.
Okay, yeah. No, I actually was going to say that, which I feel like. See, here's the thing: that people would like more Max Payne, but as I've been on record a million times in the past, Max Payne's story kind of ended at Max Payne 2. So I felt like you could probably call it Max Payne and either reboot it or make it with a different character. I mean, I guess it would be hard to make a Max Payne game where Max Payne wasn't the character from the...
That'd be like making a sequel to Triple X and not actually having it star Vin Diesel's character. Oh, wait.
You know, Max Payne also has a different connotation. It could be maximum pain, maximum hurt, you know, so maybe, I don't know. I actually can also say that I wish that when they decided... They should have probably transitioned from Sam Fisher to somebody else in Splinter Cell rather than... I wish that the last Splinter Cell game, was it Blacklist was the last one? That they would have not recast Sam Fisher and just made a new person who wasn't Sam Fisher. Because Sam Fisher is a great character. I fucking love Sam Fisher. But Sam Fisher is Michael Ironside, and I wish that they would have created a different character if they were going to bring in a different voice actor instead of just recasting Michael Ironside.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What other should, like Mass Effect with what other video game franchise that I'm a huge fan of?
It's like iconic characters that you would like to see with a different character. You know what? I'll throw this one out there. People have talked about this for a while. I'd love to see a Zelda game that didn't have Link as the main character. It doesn't have to be Princess Zelda. I know a lot of people have thought about a Zelda game where it's Princess Zelda as the main character instead of Link, but I'd be more than happy to have a Zelda-style game that breaks away from the formula a little bit more by having a character that is
follows Tingle all the time.
No, that's not what I'm saying. There was a Tingle game.
I know.
I bought that shit. It was
that's your own fault.
It was my fault. I feel bad about it. Let's see. Let's see some other iconic characters out there from video games.
I think Uncharted. Could totally be someone other than Nathan Drake.
Sure. Nathan Drake's a very fun character, but it would be nice to... I think that one of the main things, Brandon, that maybe comes to my mind is that in a lot of the answers to these questions, I would love it if they changed characters to a different character, a very different type of character. So, like, having there be a new Uncharted and having it be, this is kind of a spoiler for Uncharted 4, but... let's just say there's actually an opportunity at the end of Uncharted 4 to have a new series with a new character that is not Nathan Drake. And the character that they have there I would really like to see in a game because it was kind of a cool little twist at the end there. I really like the idea of having any Mario game that doesn't have fucking Mario in it.
Yeah, it's called Luigi's Mansion.
Not Luigi either. It's
called Toad Treasure Tracker.
No, okay. Like a Mario-style game that does not have
Princess
Mario.
Peach Adventures.
That's not a Mario-style game. I don't know. I never got around to playing that, but a Metroid game without Samus? I could go with that.
We got that.
Go with that.
Metroid Prime, whatever the fuck it is for the DS.
Oh, Federation Force?
Federation Force.
Yeah, that doesn't... I don't know what you're talking about. That's a big prank. I don't know what you're talking about. That was an April Fool's joke from Nintendo. I don't know why people keep talking about it like it's an actual game.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of some of the other like big iconic characters like from big franchises. I mean, I'd be almost willing to go out and say that I would like to see... any franchise that's gone for more than 2 iterations with the same main character, I could probably stand to see something different.
I'm going to say something, and this is totally popped in my head.
Right.
Just because they've been really popular as late. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure it would probably upset people more than anything. A Sherlock Holmes game where you actually play as Watson.
Okay.
And maybe like Sherlock is missing, and you have to find Sherlock as Watson.
Okay.
Because all of the current Sherlock Holmes games that have been coming out, like the new one that's coming out, and the last one I can't remember what it was fucking called, Crimes and Punishment.
They all
Sherlock Holmes
blur together for me.
You're playing as Sherlock, in those games. Maybe someone who's reacting to Sherlock or something. Maybe just take place in that world.
Yeah.
I
having just got done replaying Portal 2, I could really stand for
someone other than Shell.
Well, no, I'd like it to be her, but if you want to make it somebody else, I'm cool with that too. Just make another Portal game. I don't give a fuck who it is. It could be whoever you want to. Actually, wouldn't it be interesting to play a Portal game as GLaDOS, not as not as a puzzle game, like more of a one of those kind of looking at the arena, trying to create test chambers or whatever. I don't know. Portal 2 is really good. I really like that game. I'm just trying to think of anybody else that comes immediately to mind. It's hard. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I've always said that I wouldn't mind playing a Metal Gear game that didn't have Solid Snake in it, as long as it was called something else. It kind of gets into the Max Payne thing about, like, I'm real hung up on titles, I guess. I honestly think after playing through the last episode of Hitman that you could make a Hitman game that had somebody other than 47. I mean, he's a kind of an iconic character, but he's also a little bit of a cipher. It's not like he has a lot of strong opinions about things. He's mostly just a murder machine, so you could probably get away with having somebody besides 47 in a game. Which would make sense, because if it was somebody with, like, hair that didn't have a barcode tattooed on the back of their head.
I was going to say Devil May Cry, but they tried that. Twice, technically.
They did try it. Well, they had Nero, and then are you talking about DMC?
Yeah.
No, I think honestly that Devil May Cry fans would have liked DMC more if the character hadn't been Dante. If it had been a reboot where Virgil was the main character, because then there wouldn't have been all of this, like, nostalgia wanting this Dante
people would
to be
still
old Dante.
People would still bitch.
Well, this is video games, man. It's all about bitching all the time, 24 hours a day. Thumbs down on this podcast. 30 frames per second lock on this podcast. Thumbs down on Steam.
Yeah.
I am glad that in Watch Dogs that they're not having fucking shit-ass
thank
Aiden.
God, yeah. I kind of want...
Goddamn tool.
I wouldn't mind Aiden to appear somewhere in the game.
Yeah.
Like, to be referenced or whatever, but it's also a different city, so it doesn't really make sense, so...
I kind of wish that they would make a new Assassin's Creed game with a different protagonist, but who was actually interesting than the last... No, it's been since Ezio. I haven't really been attached to an Assassin's Creed protagonist since Ezio.
The closest I've ever been attached was Syndicate, but I don't think they were the sister brother were as interesting as Ezio.
Yeah. I mean, Black Flag was about as close as I got to liking a main character.
Yeah.
But even he was just like, oh, he's a charming, rakish rogue. Kind of.
Yeah.
Again, I've mentioned this before, but we keep coming back to the idea that, like, it's not Connor. Connor was 3. Who was the guy in 4? Edwin, or something like that. He was an interesting character, but it kind of starts with him leaving his family behind.
Yeah.
And I kind of think he's a piece of shit for that. So, like, when he's trying to be all like, oh, we're hanging out with the pirates, we're drinking rum, we're having a good time, blah, blah, blah. It's like, your family is left behind. You left your family behind.
Kenway? Edward Kenway?
Kenway, there you go. There you go. Yeah, Edward Kenway.
I like the Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah.
Well, with the exception of Unity. I've never actually... Unity is the only one I've never played.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you think you might... I mean, there was an article I read a little while back that was like... that was kind of based around, like, giving Unity a second chance after all the patching and updating, and, like, taking out some of the free-to-play bullshit or some of the mini-game elements where you got to play the phone game or whatever. They unlocked all the chests so that you can get access to all of them, and going back and playing it again with all of that fixed, like, that it actually comes off as a better game than it did initially.
It might. I don't have any interest in that time period, and...
It's kind of how I feel about 3.
In all honesty, I felt like when they killed off, and spoilers, the Desmond, when they got rid of the character of Desmond for the modern day stuff,
sure,
that's where my interest in the series dropped. Not because I was interested in Desmond, but because I felt like as soon as they went, well, if we don't have Desmond, well, why don't we just make the modern day stuff? It's you.
It's like a cipher, yeah.
It's like... you. You're the person. You're playing a video game, and you're in the video game, but it's you as a person. It's like, no, fuck that. Give me a fucking character that I can associate, that I can latch onto, that I want to be interested in their story. Once they basically turned into a fucking cipher, I stopped giving a shit.
To me, it's weird because it wouldn't take much for most of the games since 3 to just make them games. I mean, they're mostly games about the characters in the past anyway.
Yeah.
Like, they could honestly excise all that other bullshit and it would probably be fine. Like, you wouldn't even have to have any Animus bullshit. You could just take it out and make it a historical game. Like, it's just a historical game. Nobody cares if you take out the dumb DNA Animus stuff. Or there are people who are going to care, but you spend 95% of your time. Like, because when I was playing...
my problem is that they spent all this time building up the modern day stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Only to go, well, people are tired of the Desmond thing. Because they basically spent 3 games spinning their wheels and not actually doing anything and just building on it and being like, oh, there's going to be an answer. There's going to be an answer. Don't worry. There's going to be an answer. Oh, shit. We told them there's going to be an answer. Fuck it. Let's just burn it to the ground and then never reference it again.
But then I feel like they didn't, there was a ramification of what happened at the end of Assassin's Creed 3 that I never felt in Black Flag or Unity.
Yeah, no, that's the point. As soon as they killed off Desmond, not only did they drop, they dropped everything that had to do with that.
Right.
And then they just went, well, we still have to have the modern day stuff, so let's to explain.
Yeah, because, I mean, there would be, like... There was, like I said, there was a ramification of what happened at the end of 3, but because all the rest of them seemed to take place entirely inside of a Abstergo test building or whatever, where you're like I don't even remember. That was that was 4, and that was that Unity as well? Did Unity do that same thing where it's like you're walking around?
I never played Unity, so I don't know.
Yeah. And I remember in Syndicate was
Syndicate.
In that?
You are a one of the assassins, like tech geeks, and you basically are sending like messages and relays and stuff, and then you're also doing you're their research. You're going through memories that they're finding, to try to find out information to help them do their things.
Man, just drop that shit. Also, bring back fucking Avalon from Assassin's Creed. What was the Vita one that they put out? That was a great game.
Yeah. They released it on console.
They released it on the PC, I believe.
No, I think it was also released on Xbox and PS3.
I really wish that it had a lot of remnants left over from the Vita version. That I wish they would take that character and make a full on game, because
it's like the DLC, like the DLC that was with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, with the
first mate character.
Yeah, the first mate character.
What's his name?
Like, they actually implied that they had caught the Descendant.
Right.
And that's why you were able to do his stuff. And I totally was expecting that Assassin's Creed, 4, or not 4, but 5, or, Unity or something, was going to be like, okay, now we're going to move over to this guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Assassin's Creed Rogue. That one was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I actually kind of liked the guy who was the main character in Assassin's Creed Rogue.
But anyways.
Anyway, yeah. That turned into a little bit of Assassin's Creed talk.
It wasn't even Assassin's Creed related.
No, not really. This next one comes in from Pedro. Pedro says, hello, Jeff and John. It's Pedro again from the Windy City of Chicago, here with another question I hope you find interesting. I was recently playing an old and elusive 1999 game I'd never heard of called Kingpin: Life of Crime.
I remember this game.
I do, too. The game was surprisingly good, even by today's standards. And I don't understand... and I didn't understand why I didn't hear from it when it first came out. Upon some research, I got my answer. Turns out Kingpin released only 2 months after the Columbine High School shooting, and the hysteria over violent video games was at an all-time high, since the perpetrators of the Columbine shooting were known to play games like Doom. The violence and profanity in Kingpin made the game unique for me today, but I can see how parents or even politicians wanted to bury this game back in 1999 due to its violent nature. I guess this is the reason I haven't heard of Kingpin until now. My question is, do you think that this can still happen today? Do you think certain games will be given less attention due to current events rather than the quality of the actual game, or are we past the era where media such as games, movies, / etc. are blamed for people's real-life violent outbursts? Thank you for reading my question. All best to everyone in Austin, Pedro. Now, first of all, I don't think that Kingpin got overlooked because of Columbine. I seem to remember Kingpin getting overlooked because it was considered to be a mediocre game at the time. I mean, I remember it, the big kind of blocky characters and hit people with a pipe. But around that same time period, there were plenty of violent games.
Yeah.
I mean, let me see.
I also remember that game being pirated, like, a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw a physical copy. Like, I think every copy I ran across was pirated by friends.
Yeah. And I also remember it being like, I mean, there's other games that I could list off that you've never heard of before that were good games that just got overlooked because I feel like also in 1999 when Kingpin: Life of Crime came out, you have to remember that video game advertising and even video game like websites and even stuff like, I doubt there's even a trailer for that game because it wasn't, I don't remember there being that many video game trailers except for like big AAA big stuff at the time. But I honestly don't feel like that's a thing. I mean, John, what do you remember that game, right?
Sort of vaguely, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it also felt like it came out at a time when especially on the PC side of things, most of the focus was on multiplayer games, like hardcore, like on multiplayer, and that was more of a single player game, if I remember correctly.
I think it might have had a multiplayer element. I'm sorry.
But I don't remember the multiplayer being very good, though, is the thing.
I don't remember the game being very good. I remember having an interesting art style and being like medium, but I'm trying to think. My internet's being a real dick face, but I'm trying to think of like what else was out around 1999. What other games were popular? We were talking what, PS1 era?
Probably Dreamcast era.
Yeah, PS1, Dreamcast, PC. So I think that around that time, I'm trying to think of where I was in 1999. Okay, I was back in Austin. I was working for that place. I was living in my house. Where the fuck was I living? I don't remember. Damn it! I really wish that my
the game came out June 30th, 1999.
Do you have there's a Wikipedia page you can get to that's like games, the video games that were released in 1999.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So Kingpin: Life of Crime.
Yeah. Apparently it got a lot of average reviews.
Yeah.
Apparently, is what I'm looking at about the game is that a lot of people just thought it was.
Okay, so let's take a look at these. This is just a listing on Wikipedia. I like to do this from time to time of 1999 video games. So we're talking N64 era, Earthworm Jim 3D, Custom Robo, Dance Dance Revolution, Baldur's Gate: Tale of the Sword Coast. I honestly feel like the reason that you haven't heard of it was because the hype machine was in its infancy at this point.
Yeah. Also, looking at this game's Wikipedia page, which I'm assuming he probably went and looked at, this game is actually known for controversy in which you've brought it up. Basically, it received a fair amount of controversy due to its graphic depiction of violence and heavy use of profanity. The game picked up increased media attention because it was the first high-profile first-person shooter to be released since the Columbine High School massacre occurred. At that point, computer games were facing increasing pressure from Congress and lobby groups seeking an answer to what had influenced the Columbine killers.
Okay.
A lot of congressmen had called for the company to cancel the game before its release, but they said, nay, we're going to release it.
Okay. Well, fair enough. I just don't remember. I mean, I don't remember anybody. I mean, okay, I remember there was,
but a lot of companies apparently didn't stock the game because of all this controversy.
Okay,
like Best Buy didn't carry it, Walmart didn't carry it, Toys R Us didn't carry it.
Okay,
and this was
that's why you never saw a physical copy.
Yeah,
apparently,
according to the head of the company, if it wasn't for Electronics Boutique, which that should tell you something.
Yeah,
the game may never have seen the light of day in North America.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't. I guess I played it a few times and it had some kind of shock value to it. Yeah. But I was kind of like, it's not really. I mean, it was around the time when you just had a lot of stuff that was kind of like this. That was kind of walking around and hitting stuff with, you know. Fair enough. I guess I never knew that. I was also. I have to admit that also around 1999, I was stealing my PC games pretty liberally.
Same here.
I was pirating the shit out of games because
I was an idiot for doing it.
Yeah,
I feel like, but that was a time when I was young enough. I was young enough to not realize how stupid it was. Mm-hmm. And old enough.
Shit.
I don't know.
That was the year X-Wing Alliance came out. Yeah. I remember that game. At the time, I was, it was young. I was young. Everybody was doing it. Also, buying PC games was, before Steam buying PC games, there were sometimes some hurdles. Like, take this game, for example. If you wanted to go buy a legit copy, you got to go to EB Games, in the mall?
Hell, there were some games for a while there that, you could go to the mall and there would be a kiosk of a guy selling bootleg copies of PC games.
It wasn't at my mall. Not at my mall. Oh, that's the year System Shock 2 came out. Anyway, enough reminiscing. Let's get back to the question at hand. Do you think certain games will be given less attention due to current events rather than the quality of the actual game, or are we past the era where media such as games, movies, etc., are blamed for people's real-life violent outbursts? I feel like we're getting less of that these days.
I feel like games that are like that get I think
the last one was Hatred, right?
Yeah,
I haven't seen like a big... I mean, as far as the connection of violence to video games seems like it's been... I just don't see that as much anymore.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, but I think that everybody has kind of realized with how popular video games are. I feel like we've kind of come back to the for years they were saying watching violent movies makes people violent, and the instantaneous response that any thinking individual can have to that is, then why aren't we all a bunch of psychopathic Running Man serial killers, right? Because I know lots of people who just watch. Brian Salisbury loves horror movies. He's seen almost every horror movie that there is. If violent movies make you into a violent person, then Brian Salisbury should be some kind of crazy serial killer. And if violent video games make you into a violent offender, I should be out running people over with my car and hacking them to death because I play a shitload of video games, and I mostly like the violent ones. I honestly feel like a game that generated controversy these days would actually get more attention, not less. People wouldn't ignore a game that was offensive. Today's day and age with the internet and trying to get I mean, there would definitely be less of an outlet. I'm sure Steam would probably, if there was enough outrage about it, Steam would probably not carry it. It would not be on consoles. It would not be. I mean, let's look at what was it? Hatred, for example. I mean, that ended up getting released on Steam, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there was for a while there. It was almost like, if I remember correctly, it wasn't going to be listed on Steam, or
I thought we got to kind of the point where unless you're outside of an M rating on the ESRB, you're probably going to get a general release, unless you're in an AO category of game. But I mean, I don't know. I honestly feel like if a game is doing something offensive or unpleasant or something that people find distasteful, it's almost the best time in gaming history to do that, because you're not going to get swept under the rug. You're going to have people holding it up saying, look how terrible this is. And there's going to be a certain group of people online or whatever
who are going to seek it out because they want to see how terrible it is,
or going to seek it out, or who genuinely feel like the reason that people say that it's terrible, that they feel like they disagree with that assessment and they want to support it anyway. We see this all the time in sexy stuff in video games, some not as much in violence, but a game like I was just looking at one of the news stories that we had earlier. A game like Dead by Daylight. Is that the one where you play as the killer hunting down the kids in the arena? That probably would have gotten some weird controversy at a certain point in gaming history. Of just we're training kids to fucking kill each other, with these murder simulators and blah 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 blah. But now I just feel like nobody seems to give a shit anymore. We have a presidential election to argue about, John. We don't have time for violent video games anymore. Plus the level of video game violence has just gone up, and it just seems like nobody really is whatever. What was that? Mad World on the Wii with all the blood and guts and stuff. Sniper Elite should be held up as just an atrocity.
You can shoot a guy in the testicles.
Not just that, but the game slows down and goes inside of the man to show you his testicles bursting. All right, thank you, Pedro. Our next one's coming in from Julio, who says, hey, Jeff and John, what are some games that you liked or even loved from game types or genres that you usually dislike or are indifferent to? Well, I'm indifferent to turn-based RPGs and Souls combat. Both Persona 4, Golden, and Bloodborne are some of my favorite games ever so far. So what are some of your favorite games from game types or genres that you tend to dislike? Thanks, Julio. What do you think?
I don't know.
There's not a lot of genres that I dislike, but I can name a few. I really liked I think I rented Burnout 3 Takedown, and in spite of not being like a racing game kind of guy.
Oh, yeah, no, I love the Burnout games.
I was like, holy shit, this is so fun.
Yeah, no, Burnout is great, but I also like racing games to a degree. I don't hate them. What Yeah, it's weird because I can't think of any like games that
I could say that I like Trenched, even though I'm not a big fan of tower defense. I enjoyed that game, even though it was a tower defense game. There have been a few tower defense games actually that have come out that have been
not a fan of, I guess, dating sims, and I really enjoyed Hatful Boyfriend, I guess.
This is the most wishy-washy answer I've ever heard on this show. I guess I don't like these, and I suppose I like this other one.
I mean, I don't play a lot of dating sims, so I can't really.
I'm trying to think. I mean, like, okay, so genres that I don't normally get into: sports. So has there ever been?
See, that's the thing. I've always played sports games.
Yeah.
Like I can't like I'm not like like oh I got to play that new Madden or that new NBA 2K17. I don't feel like I have to, but you give me one of those games, I'll fucking play it. I love those games. I mean, I used to play basketball all the time. Double Dribble is one of my favorite games on the NES.
I did really enjoy playing Arch Rivals, even though I don't ever enjoy playing sports games usually. But when I was a kid, I used to love it.
NFL Blitz was always my fucking jam.
Yeah. Racing I don't normally do a lot of. I remember really getting into Wipeout XL, in spite of the fact that I wasn't a big fan of racing games.
There was one Ridge Racer game, and I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
That I really got into just because fucking I became like just because you could literally drift the entire track, and I thought it was hilarious and fun to do because you would just literally start and immediately go into a drift, and then you could win the entire track just by drifting around it. Yeah.
I could say actually that a lot of the early on, not as much anymore, but early on, again back to racing, the first couple of Gran Turismo games were so impressive that I played them even though I wasn't a fan. I bought one of the first DualShocks with the analog sticks to play Gran Turismo because you could use the right stick for more fine acceleration control. But yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else that kind of falls into that particular category. I mean, here's the problem with this question, John. I love video games.
Yeah, we are guys who play a lot of video games.
Yeah.
And a lot of types of video games.
Yeah.
And,
I like side scrolls. Okay, so the genres, visual novels, I'm not that much into, and I haven't yet found. Hatful Boyfriend is fun to play on the air, but I would never sit at home and play it by myself. Walking simulators, I'm kind of like 50-50 on, but some of them I enjoy. I don't have a philosophical problem with them, but I like some. I can tell you that even though I like adventure games, I don't really like the way that Telltale has decided to make adventure games recently, which are not really adventure games. I like actual like old school Monkey Island, pick up a thing, go over to the thing, and put the thing on the thing. So. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like we're kind of low on answers for that one, Julio. But thanks for your question. This next one comes in from Ricky J, who says, "Hail and well met, ambassadors of the Rage, the Dog, and the Holy Nethers. This is Ricky J on the site, loyal patron and benevolent gamer from the mythic lands of Giant Fruit and Thor, Australia." Oh, he means Chris Hemsworth. Okay.
Wait, what? Say
Chris
again?
Hemsworth from Australia?
Oh, I don't know.
He says this is Ricky J from the site, loyal patron and benevolent gamer from the mythic lands of Giant Fruit and Thor Odinson, Australia.
Yeah.
So.
He's probably from Australia.
I'll try to keep this one quick. What do you guys think of procedural generation? On one hand, it is an integral part of the future of video games with the potential to create endless worlds and infinite variety, like Minecraft. Or do you guys think it's being used more as a crutch or something to supplement a developer's lack of creativity and imagination? I can't be bothered with creating a world from scratch, so I'll let the engine do it for me, etc. Personally, the possibilities with PG can be endless, and who knows what sort of worlds can be made with the improvement of technology over time. Could we see Minecraft-sized worlds running on the Frostbite engine? My boner throbs at the thought. Thanks for all you guys and gals do. Keep it up. I'll keep watching as long as you keep posting. Cheers, Ricky J. So, what do you think? Procedural generation.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, so he made a comment of, the developer being too lazy to come up with their own worlds or whatever.
Sure.
I don't think it's necessarily that they're too lazy. It's that sometimes you have an idea for something, and what you're wanting to do, you can't do by yourself. Mm-hmm. But you can if you can make it procedurally generated and make it so that it is seamless,
right,
that saves a lot of time. That's not being lazy. That's just time saving. Now, at the same time, there also is a lot more work to proceed. It's not like I can say, this game's procedurally generated. Here's 2 assets, and it's going to reuse those 2 assets in a million different ways.
Right.
That's not how that works.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that goes into procedurally generated. And because you have to not only tell it what assets it can and can't use, but you also have to figure out how those assets can connect to each other and how to make a seamless thing.
Yeah.
To make it seem seamless. So in some ways, procedurally generated can be more work than...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not just... we're not at a point right now where it's just shake and bake, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of the holy grail, right?
Yeah.
I feel there was I feel like we're kind of coming down off of it, but there was a point where it seemed like every big indie game was going to be procedurally generated.
Yeah.
Where there was just a shit ton of that going on. And I feel like a lot of that started, I mean, I can't be for certain. I know that there were games before that did, like old flight sims that did. I remember Comanche 3 did the whole voxel generation stuff. But Diablo was the first one to do it well because it felt close enough in my mind, at least, to an actual created level. To the point where when I play games that are like Diablo and they're not procedurally generated, I get a little mad at them, like Titan Quest or Sacred, where I'm just you go back to play through Sacred again and you're like, wait a minute, it's just the same fucking level over again? What the fuck, man? This is a Diablo game. Make a new level for me. But by Diablo 3, I feel like they got to the point where it was really, really difficult to tell the difference between those levels. They were different enough, and they were that you would see different things. And then in Diablo 3, right, like once you exited the game and came back in, they didn't even keep the same level between there. Like I feel like in Diablo 2, if you exited the game and then came back in, it was the same level that you had before, wasn't it? Whereas in Diablo 3, it's just like you hit a checkpoint, but if you went backwards, the whole thing would be different than the last time it was.
Yeah.
I think that we're still trying to figure out how to make that work in a 3D way.
Yeah.
I feel like a 2D way, a lot of games do it well. In fact, I really liked it in Rogue Legacy because it wasn't quite as good as your normal Metroidvania, but with the infinite amount of variety, it was almost a quantity over quality type of thing where what's the saying? Quantity has a quality all of its own, where it was good enough to kind of fool your brain.
Yeah.
I really do feel that it's a shame that it's gotten overused in a lot of ways, because I think that a game like, I mean, I don't know, I never really got back into it, but like We Happy Few might have worked better if it had just been a directed experience instead of a procedurally generated experience.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think that, I mean, the big example here is No Man's Sky. I think that No Man's Sky probably could have stood having more work done to each individual planet, maybe, instead of having instead of touting so many different planets. Because I feel like the issue you run into with procedurally generated is if you procedurally generate everything and it ends up being too similar, then you're losing a big part of the thrill of games, which is seeing something new.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't feel like it falls into an either it's the best or it's the worst. It's a tool that we're still using, and if we can get to a point where, my dream is if you can get to a point where you can basically download a procedurally generation app that is like, I need you to make me a downtown city, and you're going to get something that looks like downtown, a close proximity of downtown GTA 5, along with throwing in all the assets that you need to make that look believable, but that you can infinitely remix it. Then, I mean, you have the potential there for a game that has a huge amount of replayability, because you never know what you're going to be able to do.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Bloodborne has procedurally generated chalice dungeons, and they are garbage. They're just terrible, because one of the things that makes the Soulsborne series so great is the intricate detail that is put into the entire level design, which you just can't get right now out of procedurally generated. So it's just like, oh, it's a hallway that hooks into this, that hooks into type of dungeon 5B with these 4 enemy types that I've already seen a bunch of times before. So it has the potential to be really boring, and I think that most people who play Bloodborne are like, at best kind of like, chalices are okay. So you got to be careful not to overuse it.
Yeah.
All right, this one comes in from Andrew. Andrew says, hello, Jeff and John, longtime fan, first time writing in. My question is about VR. PlayStation VR is right around the corner, and from what I've heard, it can't really provide the same immersion as the other big two. From what I've heard, it's grainy and feels more like a screen in your face rather than you in the world. Do you think this product will stain some people's perception of VR? Thanks, Andrew.
I haven't actually heard that.
I haven't heard it either, but let's say that it's true. So I'm going to tell you, Andrew, that when I got my DK2, that's a lower quality headset than any of the ones that are currently out right now.
Yeah.
CV1, Vive, and the PSVR are better quality than the DK2 or DK1. So I put on my DK2 and I loaded up Half-Life 2, which is a, 10, 15-year-old game at this point. It was incredible. The immersion, even though the graphical fidelity wasn't quite as good, and there were some problems with the way that the lenses had this kind of, you could kind of, if you looked closely, you could kind of see the pixels, almost the dots that you were looking at.
Yeah.
But if you kind of relaxed a little bit, you would get into it. I have to say that it's hard, if you haven't ever done it, to describe how incredible the immersion of VR can be, even when it's at a lower poly count.
It's like wearing, again, Jeff's DK2. At no point did I look at it going, man, it's like looking out my own eyes.
Right.
At the entire time, I was sitting there going, I'm wearing a headset. I'm looking at a screen that's really close to my face. But knowing that, and also the graphical fidelity for the games weren't great.
Sure.
But still, there were times when, there were some games or some virtual reality experiences that you loaded up that I played with where it was like, oh, shit, I'm getting vertigo.
Right.
Oh, shit, I feel, this is, my brain is, your brain will adjust.
Yeah. Well, your brain's too stupid. The thing about VR tech is that the big thing about VR is not the 3D that they've developed from having control over your eyes one at a time. So if your eyes register something flying at your face, you've got some dumb lizard parts of your brain that don't know the difference. They don't know the difference between a virtual softball flying at your head and an actual softball flying at your head. When that happens, both times your brain goes, look out, motherfucker, duck. Your brain does not know the difference between the two of them. So even if you're looking at it and the softball that's coming at your head is pixelated, it still looks like something, like a physical object flying at your face, at which point you go, whoa. Like in Half-Life 2, they've got those little saw blade motherfuckers that are trying to just run into you and cut you that are flying around. And I swear to God, I'm sitting here, I'm going to use a mouse and keyboard, but I'm like bobbing and weaving around because when something's flying at your head, it's got a saw blade and you got headphones and you hear, like, you fucking duck.
Yeah.
So I don't think that, I think that the experiences are, I don't think they have to be the most immersive right now. I think that they can start by being clever experiences instead of having to be the most realistic experience, because honest to God, your brain will fill in a lot of extra detail. There really is a severe difference between looking at a flat two-dimensional screen and being, when you're playing a video game and you turn your head to the left and you're still looking at the video game, it really does a lot to trick your brain into thinking that you're there.
Yeah.
So, I just want a way to play Dark Souls on VR. Oh, dude, what if they had a mod for? Has anybody modded? Wait a minute. Hold on. It just occurred to me. Has anybody ever modded room space on the Vive to the point where you can like move your arms? Like, can I do a parry in Dark Souls with my actual arms from a first-person perspective? And oh man,
probably.
Damn it! Now I want to do it. All right. Wait, did I just skip one?
You might have. I don't know.
Oh, I got some more questions here. Tell you what, this one's just for you, John. What's this one say here, real fast? Let's grab a couple more of these. All right, this one comes in from. What do you didn't sign it, sir, so I'm going to go with Rich, who says, hey, yo, just wondering what your favorite non-shooter multiplayer PvP games of all time are. Non-shooter multiplayer PvP. I'm actually struggling to come up with many. The two that immediately spring to mind are OG Smash Brothers, because no matter what any of those damn pros say, there's way too much gravity, and Melee destroys the air. Okay, I don't know. And Twisted Metal 2. Everyone is obsessed with guns. Blah! Yes, I love using punctuation. I apologize for the reading struggles I know this will inevitably cause. Also, 2 quick ones for John. What's your favorite wrestling game of all time? And do you think Jeff would be into wrestling with shadows? Quick aside, I don't know what a podcast... I didn't know what a podcast was until I found Spill, and I'll follow you guys till the day one of us dies. I wasn't sure what would happen when Jason started floating away, but you brought in some quality talent there, Jeff. Say, I really grow to respect your effort in keeping this great podcast going. You are, and this is not sarcastic, quite an inspiration. Blah, blah, Dong Lord, your mom, blah, from Rich. I actually didn't pre-read this one. I just brought it up right now, so I wasn't reading this because there's a bunch of like, Jeff, you're the best. Well, thank you, Rich. We'll go ahead with yours first here, John.
Oh, the 2 questions for me?
Yeah, what's your favorite wrestling game of all time?
WWE No Mercy.
Okay. That's the N64 game?
Yeah, it's an N64 game.
Okay. Do you think Jeff would be into Wrestling with Shadows?
It's a documentary about... Yeah, no, Wrestling with Shadows is a documentary. It's about Bret Hart.
Okay. The Hitman?
Yeah.
Agent 47 himself? Dude, what if there's DLC where you could wear those glasses?
Yeah, it's basically about him dealing with getting screwed over by the WWE.
Okay.
When the big Montreal screw job happened. You might enjoy it from a documentary standpoint. It's interesting.
Okay.
I don't know if it's... I don't know. Like I said, that's something I honestly couldn't like say yes for sure because I don't know what you're,
I like a good documentary. Yeah. I don't know. Okay, so favorite non-shooter multiplayer PvP. So
player versus player, non-shooter,
not shooter. Now I'm gonna take that to mean like Call of Duty, Battlefield.
No games where you have guns and you're running around shooting each other.
So no gun games.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Okay.
Any game where you have a gun.
Non-shooter multiplayer PvP games of all time. Super Puzzle Fighter.
Yeah.
Man, me and my friends were so into Puzzle Fighter that shit was unreal.
Super Puzzle Fighter is a great game.
Oh, Super Puzzle Fighter is the best. You guys go download Super Puzzle Fighter HD and then challenge your friends and your neighbors and your sisters, and then you can tell them how good you are. Then you can invite me over. I will destroy you at Super Puzzle Fighter HD this Sunday on SummerSlam.
This Sunday is, surprisingly enough, also No Mercy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Surprisingly enough.
Okay, all right.
It's the perfect pay-per-view No Mercy. But
let's see. Splatoon is good, but it's kind of got guns. It's kind of paint.
It's a shooter. It's considered a shooter. It's a shooter.
All right. I know a lot of people would say Rocket League. I'm not personally into Rocket League.
Rocket League's pretty good.
Not a huge Rocket Leaguer. Competitive multiplayer,
PvP multiplayer.
Some might say Mario Party. I'm not really into Mario Party.
You know what? I like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, all the Street Fighter games, all the Mortal Kombat games, all the fucking
Striker's got a gun. That's a shooter. No Mortal Kombat. You can't say Mortal. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. What were you saying?
It's like any fighting game. I'm a huge nerd for fighting games, so I
wish I could say Dark Souls PvP, but I mean, I'm just not really super into that. So I mean, like any Melee PvP would be up
Battle Arena Toshinden.
Battle Arena Toshinden?
Yeah.
Oh, good God, man. What you say? Toe Ball number 1 next.
Yeah.
The only reason anybody bought
The
Toe
Last
Ball.
Blade 2 is actually one of my favorite fighting games. The Last Blade 2 was fucking phenomenal.
Okay. Yeah.
Project Justice.
I'm trying to think.
That's my answer. That is my answer. Project Justice for the Dreamcast. Greatest fucking fighting game of all goddamn time.
I'm just sad. Now I'm just sad because we're talking about fighting games, and it just reminds me that was that robot game that we played that got canceled.
Oh, Thunder something.
Rising Thunder?
Yeah, Rising Thunder.
Man, that was a good game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Like, I actually honestly enjoyed fighting against other people in that game because I had a chance, and I'm not very good at multiplayer. I think the multiplayer I probably played the most was probably Counter-Strike before it was out.
Yeah.
When it was in beta, back in the olden days. Non-shooter. That's the big sticking point. So many games that are
and he mentioned like Twisted Metal, and I would technically consider that a shooter.
Yeah,
because you're shooting guns off your cars.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it's just he's talking about first-person shooter, not FPS.
Yeah.
You know what? I never was really able to stay with it, but I had a lot of respect for the limb that Ubisoft went out on with that multiplayer in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
When they did that whole like.
There's some people that really like that.
It was interesting. I could never really stay with it. Like it never really super grabbed me, but it was an interesting idea that I felt like if they just would have kind of made it a little bit like it would be really interesting to play like an MMO that was kind of that style instead of a smaller area. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna say we're done.
Okay.
We're done with that. Unless you have anything else to say.
No, just Project Justice.
Project Justice. Okay. Let's see. This one comes in from Wiener Schnitzel. He says, "Hey, Jeff and John, a simple question to Jeff. Did you play any more Kerbal Space Program? Did you learn anything new you could show, like getting to Duna? I really enjoyed your last Kerbal video and would love to see another one. Best wishes, Wiener Schnitzel."
Oh, God.
I figured out so many things. I figured out that if you bring a scientist, John, I didn't know this. Scientists can reset all of your science things and then keep all of the science that you get. So if you build the right rocket and you put it to the right place, it's like you can basically put a scientist and a pilot, or you can pilot it yourself like a goddamn man. Quit being so lazy, Jeff. You can pilot it, and then like let's say that you do a shot from Kerbin to what's the one after the moon? Is that Duna? I don't remember. Whatever. There's 2 moons that go around Kerbal, and the second one is way easier to land on. It's got way lighter gravity, and it's super easy to land on. So you take a trip out there with a scientist, and just like you take science readings in lower Kerbal orbit. You take science readings in upper Kerbal orbit. You take science readings in space. You take science readings in upper Duna orbit or whatever it's called. Take science readings in lower Duna orbit. You land on Duna. You take more science readings. You come back, you get like 750 science. You get so much fucking science that you can science all the science. And I went and looked at some of Scott Manley's videos, and I learned how to actually make a proper lander that can land and then take back off again and still have enough space juice, a.k.a. fuel, to get back, because it actually turns out that it's way easier. It's a lot harder to land on the moon than it is to land on the one that's further away, because when you go to the one that's further away, it's easier to land on it, and then when you take off, you just have to get a little bit away from it, and then it's like you're back into your Kerbal orbit. So
yeah, in case you're wondering, yes, he has continued to play it.
It's one of those things that I have to stop myself. It's like the Pringles can, right?
Yeah.
Like there have been a few days where I'm just like,
oh no, I remember. I'd come over and you'd be like, John, I'm so tired. I'm like, why are you tired? It's like, it was like something was doing something. I had all this time to kill, and I don't have any TV shows right now. So I was like, you know what? I'll play Kerbal Space Program for like an hour.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
And then it was like 6 hours later.
Yep, sure was. Goddamn right it was. I don't know. Maybe one of these days we'll do a second Kerbal.
Did you hear the announcement? They technically have finished the game.
Really?
Basically the original team that had been working on it all the way up to recently has now moved on to another project, and then they've hired a bunch of new employees to just focus on
like
fixing patches and additional content stuff, like DLC kind of things.
I mean,
like not pay for DLC, but like just additional stuff that was. But as far as they're concerned, the core game is now done officially.
No, they keep adding. I mean, they keep doing patches and stuff. I have yet to get to the point where I know how to do a Holtzman transfer, which is basically moving out of the orbit of Kerbin into the orbit of another planet.
Yeah.
I did. It's funny. Every time I play Kerbal Space Program, I get a little bit further, and I got up to the point on this one after doing that big old dump full of science. We'll go into that planet, get science. I actually feel like I could do it better. I feel like if I started over the campaign mode, that it's like I could do all the stuff until I get enough, and instead of going to the moon, I can go to whatever that other one is, and then just bring back a shitload of science. Also, it turns out that you can put a space station with a science lab in it, and then you can just like research science, and then it just generates more science. And then you just shoot that science back, and science. I've said the word science too many times. But But I finally got the nuclear engines that you need to be able to exit out of the Kerbal sphere of influence. And then it was like I was going to have to start learning how to do a Holtzman transfer where there's like this delta point where you have to line up. Like you're talking about instead of just trying to go from an orbit around one planet to shoot up to another planet and then come back again, you're talking about having to deal with like full-on solar system orbital mechanics. And I don't know how to do that yet. And it's scary. I don't want to go down that hole. Actually, I just this week went back and started playing, or went back through Dark Souls 3 to get ready for the DLC coming out. And so right now, Dark Souls 3 is eating my brain to the point where I'm like...
But the point is that, yes, you've gone back to Kerbal Space Programs quite often.
Yeah. Kerbal Space Program is awesome.
Yeah, I know.
I just wish the PS4 version wasn't kind of shitty. I just wish it was a little bit less shitty than it is. I wish that they had spent more time, that Squad had spent more time learning how to put together a nice keyboard and mouse surrogate instead of just putting a mouse on the screen that you control with the right analog stick. All right. So this one comes in from James. James says, "Hi, Jeff and John. James Cameron here, long-time listener, first-time writer-inner. What do you guys think of the current status of Star Citizen? It came back into the spotlight with its I'm a Star Citizen competition this month that brought out the usual attackers and defenders. Do you guys think with the release of a number of other spaceflight sims over the last couple of years, that Star Citizen has already been beaten to the post and its freshness diminished? You guys rock. Seriously, Jeff and John, I don't think people say it enough. Thank you for countless hours of free entertainment. Really helps distress, anxiety, and occasional depression." From James. It's our pleasure.
I'm the wrong person to ask this question.
Oh, yeah?
Because I had so little interest in Star Citizen from the beginning.
They had that, what was it, Gamescom, where they had a big demo, and it was impressive.
Yeah, it was all right.
Especially the fact that it's like going into these orbital facilities and then you could see the guys driving the ships outside. This is going to be a mess senses are off the charts.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
That like
they've been off the chart for like since it was announced.
If it comes out and it does what it says it does, and it's not buggy and stupid and just whatever, I think it'd be great. I think the chances of that happening are less than 25%. I think that there's a very good possibility that when it comes out, it's technically going to do the things that they've said, but it's going to kind of be, I mean, not to just harp on it, but it's going to be kind of a No Man's Sky thing where, like, it will do the things that they specifically said that it will do, but the gameplay loop might be a little bit less interesting. I'm more interested in playing Kerbal Space Program than I am playing Star Citizen. Not that I haven't been waiting for a multiplayer co-op flying around the galaxy freeform game for years where you can also get out and shoot first-person shooters, but I don't know. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I honestly do. All right. Una mas, and then we are out. Guy writes in and says, "Dig Dong, my favorite online entertainers. John and Jeff, I've been a fan since the old days. It's my first time writing in. I wanted to ask about some of your favorite books. I really liked the few times in the past when you guys discussed your favorite works of science fiction, and both you seem well read. As such, I'm curious to know which novels, stories, authors, genres, etc. are some of your favorites, as many as you can think of. For the glory of Dongacles, from Guy." Do you do much noveling?
I don't. This is the weird part, and people always think this is weird of me.
Okay.
I don't read a whole lot of novels.
Mm-hmm.
When I do, it's usually autobiographies.
Okay.
Like, I'm a big fan of Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew.
Mm-hmm.
I love Chris Jericho's books. Wrestler Chris Jericho, his books are fucking amazing.
Okay.
Mick Foley's books are all fun and great to read. I when it comes to reading novels, I tend to like reading stuff about people's lives.
Okay.
Like true stories kind of thing.
Okay.
Especially if they can inject a little bit of humor into their writing. I don't seem to be able to, like, I have problems reading like fantasy novels and like, novels based on superheroes or novels based on whatever. I don't know. I don't. There's something in it that when I read it that my brain just shuts off.
Okay.
Give me comic books, I'll read fucking anything. Like any genre, superhero, horror, whatever. If it's a comic book, I don't know what it is, but my brain's like, fucking let's do this. We're in for the long haul. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to actually like novels, books, my interests, the things that make me go, I want to read that, and then I read it, and I like sit there overnight and read the whole thing, and without stopping, is usually an autobiography. Like it's a story. Bruce Campbell's If Chins Could Kill. It's a fucking great book.
Okay.
It's strange because same writer, Bruce Campbell, his other book, which was sort of written like a biography, but it was totally fictional, which was Make Love the Bruce Campbell Way. Great. It's a great book, but I had a little bit a harder time reading it. Mm-hmm. Not because of, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I knew that it was a completely fictional thing, so I had less interest in it. But it was written like a biography, so I did get through it, and it's a great book. It's just, I don't know, my interest for novels tend to be more towards...
But you do like comics, though, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just like it's not that fiction turns you off. It's just that in kind of long form prose format, you're more interested in kind of true life biography stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing with me. People always give me weird looks when I point that out or tell them about it. I don't know.
Okay. Fair enough. Me personally, if it's got spaceships and lasers in the future, I'm way into it. I mostly read sci-fi. I actually was just looking through my Kindle app to see the things that I purchased on my Kindle. So I'm going to rattle off a bunch of folks that if you're into shooty bang bangs in the future, you might like. I love Frank Herbert. The Dune series is probably one of my favorites of all time. And I honestly feel like he's got a bunch of other things in addition to that people tend to ignore that are really, really good books. There's anyway, but whatever. I also really like William Gibson. Gibson's last book, Zero History, I thought was really, really good. He's kind of back into a futuristic type of sci-fi thing instead of, he had this trilogy of like, oh man, I work for an advertising firm and as a brand manager and blah, blah, blah. And those were okay, but I like those. I like his sci-fi more than that. John Scalzi, who did the Old Man's War series, I really like his stuff. Okay. If you want a kind of a fun read from him, go get Red Shirts.
I've heard good things about that book.
Yeah, basically, I don't want to spoil Red Shirts for people, but it's such a crazy concept of where. Skip ahead for a second if you don't want to hear. This is just a synopsis. I'm not going to spoil anything. We're basically like, if the people who were not the main cast of Star Trek, like the Red Shirts, right, in Star Trek: The Next Generation, not only figured out that that they were like not the main characters of their life, but also realized that they were characters on a TV show that were fictional, but then decided the only way for them to survive was to get off of the TV show. That's Red Shirts. And it goes in some really interesting directions. He also has another book called Lock-In that's an interesting kind of detective mystery in the near future. I also read a lot of schlocky sci-fi. Oh, wait. David Wong also. I really enjoy his books. John Dies at the End, I feel like is way better than the movie John Dies at the End.
I love John Dies at the End of the movie.
Yeah.
I really do. I have read about half of John Dies at the End of the book. And I actually will admit it is better.
Yeah.
Like, I've only read half of it because it's one of those books that, like, I borrowed it from a friend, I read half of it, and then I stopped reading it for one reason or another, and then the friend took the book back.
Yeah.
So it was like one of those things where I didn't stop reading it because I didn't want to read it. It got taken away from me.
Honestly, I would almost say start with This Book is Full of Spiders, Seriously Don't Touch It, and then if you like that, then John Dies at the End is about the character events that lead up to that, but... if you're more into sci-fi, Futuristic Violence and Fancy Suits is fucking fantastic. Like, that's a great book. That was his latest one that just came out. I also like Neil Stephenson. But his books are super, super long. So Reemda and what's the other one that he did? About Eve's the space one. God damn, I can't remember the name of it. Eve something. Seven Eves. But Seven Eves is like, my God, is that a long book? Also, James S.A. Corey, who does the Expanse series. I didn't ever get around to watching the sci-fi series, but his space stuff is, whenever that stuff comes out, I always go to it first because it's my favorites of that sort of sci-fi. But I'll throw off a few other ones that I read a bunch of. I read about a dozen other writers that are prolific and they're good writers, but they just churn them out. They're like who's the guy who wrote Ultimate Spider-Man, who writes everything in comics?
Brian Michael Bendis?
Yeah, who just writes a crazy amount of stuff. Like there's this guy, Joshua Dalzell, has this whole Omega Force series. It's about a guy who basically gets picked up. He basically sneaks onto a spaceship, and then he ends up being an intergalactic mercenary. There's this guy that I really like called, what's his name? B.B. Larson is pretty good. He's got a series that's called Star Force. It's about basically these ships show up on Earth, and then we have to make an intergalactic space force. These are all very pulpy, just kind of like run through them. There's this guy, Vaughn Hepner, that I like, who basically writes kind of the same book over and over again. About brawny men in space doing manly space. I like most of. I think I've read just about everything that he's written. Marco Clues is a guy. He does the Chains of Command series, or might call it the Frontline series. It's basically about Space Marines. B.B. Larson I already mentioned. Nick Webb is another good one. He's got a few different space series. The problem that I've got into, John, is I'll be looking through these writers, and one of them will have a new book, and I'm like, oh, Nick Webb's got a new book. And so I'll download it, and it'll be like book 4 in the Lost Fleet series. And so I'll start reading it, and they'll be like, because I don't, some of them don't recap what happened in the last books. They just pick up and then they kind of use context clues. And I'll be like, oh, but wait a minute, I thought that guy died in the last book. And I'm like, no, I'm thinking of that other series where there was a gruff white guy in a spaceship flying it around, blasting aliens. And then just recently, I've been tearing through one last one here, Jack Campbell's The Lost Fleet series, which is about people in space, shooting stuff in space.
Okay.
I like them. I really like reading a lot of different books because I like to watch how, like, Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson, for example. I wouldn't have appreciated Seven Eves if it wasn't for me playing Kerbal Space Program, because Stevenson is such a hardcore, hard science writer that I wouldn't have had a good mental image of the different orbital mechanics they were talking about if it wasn't for having to deal with them in Kerbal Space Program. On the other side, Old Man's War just completely doesn't give a shit about space mechanics.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, I just thought of a book series that I really liked that I didn't even mention. That is probably I love the Parker novels.
Oh yeah,
like the Richard Stark Parker
the Hunter. Is that the first
the Hunter
one?
Was the first one.
Yeah, I've read.
I've read about. I think there's like 10 or 15 books, and I've read about half of them.
Okay,
they're really good. And then the adaptations that Darwin Cook did for comics were also really good.
I've heard. I need to go check those out. No, Jason Murphy's way into those.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we're done. Another podcast in the books. Mail@ragesite.com is the email address. Get your questions in for next week. John, thanks for coming by.
Okay, I'm here.